Subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
But its level is so low. Gary wondered. In the original plot, the first person to discover crystal onyx was Gong's grandfather. It has been more than 10 years. It is impossible for an onyx with quasi-elite potential to be so low. There is only one possibility. That is, there is more than one crystal onyx on the island. Then, as Gary guessed, this onyx belongs to the regional variant, not a shiny Pokémon. EV used Fire Blast. Gary ordered. EV sprayed Fire Blast, and Crystal Onyx's huge body was too heavy to dodge. Boom! Fire Blast hit. But Crystal Onyx did not fall down, but was seriously injured. It didn't fall down. It seems that its special defense is very high. Gary said, EV used Psychic. EV immediately used Psychic. Crystal Onyx was rushing towards him using the self-sacrifice attack. An invisible magical force knocked Crystal Onyx away. Bang! Crystal Onyx's huge body fell backwards and hit the ground heavily, losing consciousness. Although Crystal Onyx is very big, its strength is really weak. Its species strength is about the same as the young contest condition of the 3 great Pokémons. Go Pokeball. Gary threw the Pokeball. With a body as big as Crystal Onyx, any ball thrown can hit it. After catching Crystal Onyx, EV used Psychic to send the Pokeball to Gary. Gary was also curious about Crystal Onyx's attributes, so he checked Crystal Onyx's attributes. Pokémon, Onyx attribute, Ice, ground level, 35 potential, quasi-elite ability, frozen body, stamina will recover slowly in snowy or hail weather. Skills, tackle, harden bind, rock throw, screech, dig, ice shard, ice fawn. Intimacy, 95, maximum value 255. It is a regional variant indeed. After looking at the Crystal Onyx attribute, it can be confirmed that it is a regional variant. It is estimated that only the environment of Sunburst Island can produce Crystal Onyx, which should be considered the Onyx of the Orange Islands regional variant. It is a pity that Gary cannot use the potential of the quasi-elite for the time being, and it is not clear what changes will happen to this Onyx after it evolves into Steelix. But it is likely to have both Ice and Steel attributes. The Ice and Steel attributes are not very friendly. 2 quadruple weaknesses and such a large body will be very difficult to put in Pokémon battles, and it is not known whether this form of Steelix can evolve with Megastone. It is highly likely that it cannot, so the upper limit of Crystal Onyx is Steelix. The potential of the Onyx captured by Gary is OK, quasi-elite potential. After using the metal coat of Sylph Company, it will be upgraded to a higher level after evolving into Steelix. Steelix with elite potential can still be used. Let Grandpa help and let Onyx evolve. Gary decided to teleport Onyx back. Because Metal Coat is only sold in the inland, the Orange Islands are all small towns, and some unpopular products are not circulated here. Back in the town of Sunburst Island, Gary told Professor Oak about the Crystal Onyx. Gary, have you really conquered the Crystal Onyx? Quickly teleport over here for me to see. Professor Oak knew that Gary had conquered the Crystal Onyx and immediately asked to teleport over so that he could observe it carefully. Yes, I found that this Onyx has both ice and ground attributes, which is different from ordinary Onyx. From the perspective of strength, this Onyx is still very young, which means that there is not only one Crystal Onyx in Sunburst Island. Gary said, "Oh, you have observed to this extent. You are worthy of being my grandson, but you still have to challenge the Orange Alliance. So quickly teleport the Crystal Onyx over so that Grandpa can study it." Professor Oak urged. "Grandson, you can't control yourself. Let Grandpa do it." Gary, Professor Oak said such words in order to study Crystal Onyx. For point 4, it's okay for you to study it, but after the study, remember to use Metal Coat to evolve Onyx. You need the Metal Coat with Sylph Company characteristics. That Metal Coat can enhance the potential of Pokémon. Gary said, "Don't worry, Grandpa knows." Gary was still very confident in his grandfather. After all, Professor Oak's laboratory stored 4 trainer Pokémon. Professor Oak could take care of so many Pokémon by himself. His ability in taking care of Pokémon was definitely SSR. After he had explained everything that needed to be explained, Gary sent the Crystal Onyx over. Although Onyx was not very close to Gary, Gary was not worried. After all, it was at a low level. With Professor Oak around, he would definitely take good care of it. After resting for a night on Sunburst Island, Gary took a boat to Naval Island the next morning. 177. Naval Gym versus Danny. Naval Island is a very quiet island. It is more like a village than a town. Most of the young people in the village have gone out to work on other islands. Naval Gym is also easy to find. The huge mountain on the island is Naval Gym. The challenge rules of this gym are very difficult. There are several competitive events. Anyway, it is quite torturous, comparable to triathlon, which is a challenge for trainers. Fortunately, Gary has been practicing martial arts since he was a child, so his physical fitness is not a problem. After asking around, Gary also found Danny's whereabouts and waited for him at his door until dusk. Finally, he waited for him and got hungry. "Hello, my name is Gary. I'm here to challenge Naval Gym. You must be the owner, Danny, right?" Gary stepped forward and said, "Yes, you look like you've been waiting here for a long time." "I'm so sorry." Danny apologized. Danny is a person who can't sit still. He usually gets ready before going out. People who don't know him would think he's going on a long trip. "It's okay, just a few hours. Can you challenge the gym tomorrow?" Gary asked. Gary knows the challenge method of Naval Gym, and he definitely can't challenge it today. Point 02. In fact, we can have a gym battle now. If you insist on tomorrow, you can. "Danny, now?" Gary asked in confusion. "I heard that the rules of Naval Gym are ice boat racing. It's going to be dark soon. It's not safe to compete at this time." "Oh, who told you that?" Danny asked. "Ash." Gary didn't hear anyone say that. He just saw it. "So you know Ash. No wonder you know, but the ice boat race was just something I thought of on the spur of the moment. My gym challenge method is more solation." Danny said. Gary was sweating profusely. The gym trainers in the Orange Islands didn't follow the routine. Gary even prepared Arcanine, but the other party suddenly didn't compete. "Then what is my challenge method?" Gary asked. "I can't think of any fun challenge method for the time being, but since you've waited for me for so long, please come up with a challenge method." Danny said. Gary was stunned. Danny is too solation as a gym leader. If the challenger is allowed to choose the challenge method, he will definitely choose the one that is beneficial to him. "Then let's have a one-on-one Pokemon battle." Gary said. "Oh, one-on-one." Danny was quite surprised. Pokemon battles are no problem, but one-on-one is difficult to detect the level of the challenger. If only one Pokemon can be used, the gym trainer will not let it go, and will use trump card Pokemon right away. "Okay, let's have a one-on-one match." Danny agreed. Ding. Posted task. Get Naval Gym badge / reward. Advanced Rare Candy X3. Random permanent skill learning device. Random top quality in-battle effect item. The system has posted a task. Because Naval Gym has no fixed attributes, the attributes of the rewarded skill learning device are random, and you don't know what skills you will get. And this time, the rewarded rare candy actually has advanced candy, which means that Danny's Pokemon level is not low, and the level should be above level 49. Follow me. Danny took Gary to an open space outside the village and used it as a battle site. I can only say that the Orange Alliance's gym is too solation, and this Naval Gym is too shabby, and there is not even a battle site. "Let's release Pokemon at the same time." Danny said. "No problem." Gary took out an ordinary Pokeball from his pocket. "Okay, let's get started." The flower fell, and both sides threw Pokeballs at the same time. "Great." LV58 Blastoise 3/Legendary Great. LV51 Nidoqueen /Quasi-Elite. Knowing that Danny would send out Pokemon with gym potential, Gary naturally would not be careless and sent out Blastoise to fight. The Nidoqueen sent by Danny was a Quasi-Elite Nidoqueen with a level higher than the gym level. Remember when Ash challenged, the Ice Beam of this Nidoqueen was stronger than Ash's Lapras. You have to know that Lapras has Ice type. When Ice Pokemon use Ice skills, there is a 1.5 times attribute bonus, but Nidoqueen has no bonus. Even if they can't compete, looking at the level of Nidoqueen, it could be confirmed that the level of Ash's Lapras is not high. Blastoise. Danny saw Blastoise and immediately thought of Ash. He thought that Ash must have told Gary about what Pokemon he had. Otherwise, how could he send out a Pokemon that could restrain Nidoqueen? Water Pulse. The battle began, and Gary took the initiative. Bang! Bang! Blastoise fired 2 water balls and quickly attacked Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen, Rock Tomb, counterattack, bang. Rock was shattered by Water Pulse, but also successfully changed the trajectory of the water ball and did not hit Nidoqueen. What a strong power! Seeing the power of Water Pulse, Danny knew that the Blastoise in front of him was not normal. If his Nidoqueen was hit by this Blastoise's skills, it would be very unbearable. Nidoqueen, use Toxic, Danny ordered. Nidoqueen spit up a large amount of venom and quickly attacked Blastoise. High-speed Water Blade. Blastoise was a high-speed Water Blade, which deflected all the venom, and the Water Blades lingered around his body, rushing towards Nidoqueen quickly. Ice Beam. Danny didn't have time to be surprised and immediately issued a command. Nidoqueen sprayed out Ice Beam, hitting the attacking Blastoise. Facing Ice Beam, Water Blade 110 seemed very powerless, and the deadly cold air directly froze Blastoise. X. Gary didn't expect that this Nidoqueen's Ice Beam was so terrifying that it could freeze Blastoise. Well done. Rush over and use Thunder Punch, Danny said. Nidoqueen strode towards the frozen Blastoise. Gary watched Nidoqueen approach Blastoise, and when the distance between the two sides was about 3 meters, he immediately ordered Garnoon Light Cannon. Although Blastoise was frozen, the barrel could still fire skills, and the barrel was facing straight ahead. Crack! The ice on the barrel broke, and 2 silver beams gushed out. Nidoqueen had no time to dodge and used Thunder Punch to hit the flash cannon. Boom! Nidoqueen was not blocked at all and was knocked out. Blastoise also escaped again. Gary seized the opportunity and killed it. Hydro Cannon. Kami. Blastoise's barrel compressed the hydro pump, and the huge hydro cannon sprayed out. Nidoqueen reacted quickly and immediately shot out Ice Beam to block it. But this time, the Ice Beam was directly submerged by the huge hydro pump, and Nidoqueen was also hit. Bang! Nidoqueen fell to the ground, his eyes spinning in circles, and the winner was decided. 178. Trovita Island. Thank you for your hard work. Danny took back the Nidoqueen, then came to Gary and handed him the Cerubi badge. Thank you. Gary responded politely and took the badge in his hand. Ding! Mission completed. Rewards have been distributed to the space backpack. You are very strong. I believe you can become an honorary trainer of the Orange Alliance. Danny said, I hope so. Gary said. After the battle, Gary checked the space backpack to see what skills and props were rewarded. Rest Permanent Skill Learning Device. Superb Focus Sash. When a Pokemon is about to be defeated, it can resist 2 effective attacks of rival without injury. X1, oh my god, this Focus Sash is good, but the random skills are a bit lacking. The Random Skill Learning Device is useless, but there's an advantage of the Rest skill, that is, except for a few Pokemon that cannot learn it. All Pokemon can learn this skill. In this way, Gary can teach the Rest skill to all Pokemon he captures in the future, which is equivalent to getting 10 points of intimacy for free. The Ultimate Focus Sash is also very good. When the physical strength is close to the limit, it can resist 2 effective attacks without injury. This is very useful. It can be carried by Pokemon with Endeavor and Reversal skills. It can resist 2 attacks and achieve 1 for 1 or even 1 for 2. It was getting late. After getting the Cerubi badge, Gary rested on Naval Island. There was no Pokemon Center on this island. Pokemons were restored by soaking in the Snow Mountain hot springs. To go to the Pokemon Center, you have to go to the nearby town. After resting for a night on Naval Island, Gary left on Articuno the next day and flew to Trovita Island. It was not that Gary did not want to take transportation, but the sea around Trovita Island was difficult to travel. There are many towering rocks and whirlpools around Trovita Island. If you want to go to Trovita Island, you can only go to Little Orange Island first. The route there is safer, but the journey is long. Gary wants to get the title of chief trainer before Ash and doesn't want to waste time. After all, it took almost 2 months to capture the 3 sacred birds, and the chapter of the Orange Islands is very short. Ash only spent 2 or 3 months to complete the journey. Gary has to speed up. After several hours of flying, Gary arrived at Trovita Island, and I landed in a deserted place. Articuno is a legendary Pokémon after all. It will inevitably cause a sensation if it appears in a place with too many people. Although Gary doesn't care, he will inevitably encounter bad people. As far as Gary knows, Professor Solano of the Rocket Team has been keeping an eye on the 3 sacred birds and the 3 sacred beasts. The power plant in Azure City before was the crystal device developed by Professor Solano to capture Zapdos. Gary remembered that in the side story, Professor Solano upgraded the crystal device to capture Raikou. There's also a Dr. Namba who also has ideas about Ligia, but was stopped by Ash and Richie in the end. It must be said that the professors in Team Rocket are all talented, and machines they invented can capture legendary Pokémon. Arriving at Trovita Island, Gary went to Trovita Gym. Compared with other gyms, Trovita Gym is much more normal. Although there are changes in the battle rules, it is still a Pokémon battle. The key is that their gym is truly built, unlike Danny who doesn't even have a gym. Arrived in front of Trovita Gym. Ding! Post the task. Get Trovita Gym Badge / task reward. Advanced Rare Candy X5. Random Permanent Skill Learner. Random In-Battle Effect Item X1. The system has posted the task, and the rewards are similar to those when challenging Naval Gym. The only difference is that the number of rare candy has changed from 3 to 5, which should be due to the battle between multiple Pokémon. Gary pressed the doorbell. After a ring, the door of the gym opened automatically, and a little Stephanie stood inside. Little Stephanie looked at Gary and immediately showed a cheerful smile and asked happily, "Little brother, what are you doing here?" Gary looked down at little Stephanie, who should be Dayton's sister. As for her name, Gary had long forgotten it. "Hello, my name is Gary. I am here to challenge Trovita Gym. Is the gym owner here?" Gary asked. Gary, such a familiar name. I seem to have heard it somewhere. Little Stephanie made a bitter face, recalling where she had heard this name. Gary was also a little confused. Could it be that Ash had revealed his affairs in front of little Stephanie? In order not to waste time, Gary interrupted little Stephanie's thinking and took the initiative to say, "I participated in this year's Indigo Plateau Conference. Maybe you have seen me on TV. So that's how it is." Little Stephanie nodded and introduced herself. "My name is Marie. My brother is the owner of Trovita Gym. I'll go call him." After that, Marie ran to the gym to call Dayton over. Gary, an outsider, couldn't walk around randomly, so he waited in the hall. "Marie, I'm chatting with Sister Marina. You interrupted me at this time. Do you still want to be your sister-in-law?" After a while, a man's voice came from the door. Gary was sweating. Then he remembered that Dayton was also an LSP like Xiao, but Dayton liked young girls, while Xiao liked mature older sisters. Soon, Marie let a man and a woman out of the gym. Gary looked at the man and the woman and was shocked because he knew both of them. The man was naturally Dayton, the owner of Trovita Gym, and the woman was Marina, who Ash met when he traveled to the Orange Islands. She was an NPC that appeared in Goodbye Psyduck, Here Comes Golduck. Marina, like Misty, was also a water Pokemon trainer. But why did she appear here? Xiao. Is she also challenging the Orange Alliance? "Brother, hurry up. Someone is here to challenge the gym," Marie urged anxiously, pulling Dayton to Gary. "Hello, my name is Gary, and I'm here to challenge Trovita Gym," Gary said. "So handsome." Marina saw Gary and secretly sighed that Gary was handsome. Dayton was immediately dissatisfied when he heard this. He was pursuing Marina, and how could he tolerate Marina praising Gary for being handsome? "Gary, right? Since you are here to challenge the gym, I will let you taste the taste of defeat," Dayton said. Gary knew that Dayton was quite conceited. If it was Ash, he would definitely not accept it and want to fight Dayton, but Gary would not do that. "Really, the gym leader who was defeated by my defeated opponent? Are you sure you can let me taste the taste of defeat?" Gary said with a smile. "Who is the defeated opponent?" Dayton asked immediately. 179. Trovita Gym versus Dayton. Dayton is a very strong trainer, whose strength far exceeds that of normal gym trainers. Only trainers like Blaine can match him. Normal trainers can never beat him. So trainers who can beat Dayton are not weak. Ash, do you remember? Gary said. Ash. Dayton was stunned and immediately thought of the trainer who challenged him half a month ago, because Ash came in a team of 3, and people remember him very clearly. To be honest, Dayton was not convinced by being defeated by Ash. If Squirtle had not realized the hydro pump skill at the critical moment, Dayton would not have lost. Then let's fight, and let you see my true strength. Dayton said. Okay, how do we fight? Gary asked. 3-3 round-based competition. Tell me the 3 Pokemon attributes you want to use, and I will use Pokemon with the same attribute to participate in the battle, and 2 out of 3 games will be won. Dayton said, okay, then use Pokemon with normal, water, and fire attributes to fight. Gary said, no problem. Dayton nodded, and then said to Marina, Miss Marina, please come and witness this game. Ah, okay. Marina nodded slightly. She came to Trovita Island to find powerful water Pokemon, and then met Dayton on the way. Dayton brought her to visit the gym. Unexpectedly, she encountered so many things in a row. Everyone came to a huge venue behind the gym. The battle venue of Trovita Gym is not in the gym, but on a small island behind it. The island is about the size of 4 basketball courts. Because Dayton has many Pokemon in his hands, plus the special challenge rules, the indoor venue is limited, so he chose an open area as the battle venue. As the Southern Star of the Cross, I will let you know my strength. First, the normal Pokemon will fight. Dayton said, Eevee, you go to the battle. Gary said, Chi. The Eevee beside Gary immediately rushed into the field. Eevee. Dayton was somewhat confused when he saw that it was Eevee, but he thought of Ash who had challenged him before, and he used Pikachu to fight, so he must not underestimate this Eevee. Pidgeot, it's up to you. Dayton threw the Pokeball. Great. LV-47 Pidgeot 3/Quasi-Elite. Dayton's first Pokemon is Pidgeot, which has both normal and flying attributes, and is also considered a normal-type Pokemon. Let me tell you first, if you fall into the sea from the venue, it will be considered a defeat. Dayton reminded. Gary looked at the sea around him, which was dozens of meters high. If you fall from this height, you will definitely get hurt. Even the elite condensed Pokemon can't stand it. Got it, can we start? Gary asked. Please. Dayton made a gesture of invitation. He had to pretend in front of Marina to win her heart. Eevee, use Swift. Gary ordered. Chi. Eevee shook his tapered tail, and golden stars formed by energy flew quickly towards soaring in the sky. Use Wing Attack to smash all Swifts. Dayton ordered. Hey. Pidgeot's dual Wing Beat was surrounded by white wind power, and he waved dual Wing Beat to smash all the Swifts that flew up. Then, Pidgeot used Quick Attack to rush towards Eevee, and Eevee also used Quick Attack. Bang! The two sides collided with each other. Unfortunately, Eevee was too small, and Eevee was pushed up into the sky. Pidgeot rose rapidly and hit the falling Eevee. Dayton was relieved when he saw that Eevee's power was not very strong, but a surprise also came with it. Eevee used Thunderbolt. Gary ordered. What? Rush up quickly. Seeing the spark on Eevee, Dayton shouted hurriedly. Chee! But it was still a step too late. Eevee used Thunderbolt, and the Golden Thunder hit Pidgeot. The strong paralysis made it unable to move and fell to the ground. Aka Swift. Eevee used Swift again, and Swift quickly chased Pidgeot and kept falling on Pidgeot. Bang! Pidgeot fell to the ground, his eyes spinning. Pidgeot lost his ability to fight. Eevee wins, the referee ordered. What? Eevee can Thunderbolt. Marina, who was watching from a distance, said in surprise. Is there anything wrong with Eevee knowing Thunderbolt? Marie didn't know much about Pokemon knowledge and didn't think there was anything wrong with Eevee knowing Thunderbolt. Eevee is a normal Pokemon. It's hard to master other attribute skills without evolution. Marina said, then why did Gary's Eevee know Thunderbolt? I don't know this either. Let's continue the game. Marina didn't know what was going on, so she just watched the game carefully. After winning, Eevee ran back to Gary, with an expression that he was about to praise me. Not bad. Not bad. You played very well. Gary also squatted down and touched Evie's little head. Maria and Marie, who were watching the game from a distance, looked at Gary, who was touching Evie, and showed envy in their eyes. They also wanted to be touched on the head. Dayton saw the eyes of the two crazy girls and felt very dissatisfied in his heart. The eyes should be directed at him. Dayton, the gym leader, it seems that I won this gym battle. Gary said, that's not necessarily the case. The next game is a water Pokémon duel. Send out your Pokémon. Dayton urged. Gary didn't say much and threw a Pokeball. Great. Kami. Blastoise appeared. Gary's meaning was very clear, that is, to kill the game directly in the second round. If you win 2 games in a row, you don't have to start the third round. Starmie, go and beat him. Dayton threw the Pokeball. Great. LV50 Starmie / Quasi-Elite. The second Pokemon Dayton sent out was of some standard, and the third Pokemon would probably be of a higher level, but unfortunately, there was no chance. Blastoise uses Shell Smash. Gary said, crack. Blastoise's body was covered with red energy crystals. As the crystals exploded, Shell Smash was successfully used, sacrificing both defenses, greatly improving attack and speed. Don't even think about attacking. Use Thunderbolt. Dayton ordered immediately. Starmie's gem shot out a lightning bolt, and it was about to hit Blastoise, but was blocked by a green barrier. What? Protect. Dayton was shocked. Wave charge. Crack. At the sound, Blastoise was covered with water and rushed towards Starmie at a very fast speed. Starmie had no time to dodge and was hit head-on. Bang! Starmie was knocked out of the arena and hit the rock wall in the distance. The gem in the middle of his body kept flashing red light. 180. Hurricane Rain is coming. Starmie lost the ability to fight. Blastoise wins, the referee announced. Best of 3, I won. Gary won 2 consecutive victories cleanly and killed the game in advance. Yes, I lost, Dayton said unwillingly. Dayton finally understood why Ash became Gary's defeated opponent. When fighting with Ash, Dayton felt that Ash was completely lucky. If Squirtle had not realized Hydro Pump at the critical moment, Xiao would have no chance to win. Facing Gary, Dayton's Pokémon was completely crushed. The gap between the two sides was not a little bit. Although EV was not expected a Thunderbolt in the first duel, Starmie was completely crushed in the second duel with Blastoise. This is the Spike Shell badge. It's yours now. Dayton handed the gym badge to Gary. Thank you. Ding. Mission completed. Rewards have been issued to the space backpack. Seeing the frustrated Dayton, Gary didn't mock him. He took the badge and left. After leaving the Trovita gym gate, Gary hurriedly checked the space backpack. Destruction Ray permanent skill learning device. Top Razor Claw. Hit rate increased by 2 levels. X1. Destruction Ray. Okay. Gary was not very satisfied with the random skill of Destruction Ray. Although Destruction Ray is a general skill, it is not a particularly powerful skill. When I watched the animation before, I thought Destruction Ray was very powerful and the name sounded very domineering. It was not until I came into contact with the Pocket series of games that I realized that Destruction Ray had a lot of shortcomings. The only advantage was the power of 150, but it was basically useless. Razor Claw is not bad. If this thing is used to evolve Sneasel, how much potential could be improved? Gary suddenly thought of Sneasel. Razor Claw is also an evolution item. If Sneasel carries it at night, it can evolve into Weevil. Weevil is a pretty good Pokemon, with both Ice and Darkness attributes, species strength 510, high physical attack, and high speed. In PvP, Weevil with the stealing ability is pretty disgusting. In reality, the stealing ability can also steal items in the carrying space. The key is that Weevil itself is not weak. It has the nickname of Dragon Slayer, and it can kill a dragon with 1 punch. If it weren't for the fact that it only has 175 Power Ice Punch for its Ice-type physical attack skill and 170 Power Night Slash for its Darkness skill, Weevil's value would still be rising. Now that he has the top-quality Razor Claw, Gary really wants to breed Weevil. Anyway, there are very few Ice-type Pokemon, and it's not bad to capture one. Just when Gary was wondering where Sneasel was, a beautiful figure came to Gary. Gary looked over immediately and found it was Marina. He was a little surprised and asked, "Aren't you Dayton's girlfriend?" When Gary saw Marina at Trovita Gym before, he thought Dayton was pursuing Marina and had been pursued by Marina. Although Dayton is not as handsome as Gary, he is still a handsome guy. In addition, he is the Southern Star of the Southern Cross, so he is very popular with Stephanie. "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not Dayton's girlfriend. I just passed by Trovita Island and was invited to visit the gym," Marina explained dissatisfiedly. "I'm really sorry, I misunderstood." Gary apologized decisively. "It doesn't matter." Marina didn't care about this and then asked, "What is your relationship with Ash and others?" In Trovita Gym before, Marina also heard Ash's name and was very curious about the relationship between Gary and Ash. "Why, do you know Ash?" Gary asked knowingly. "I met Ash, Misty, and Xiao on No Island. When I met..." Marina briefly told what happened when she met Ash and his group. It must be said that Golduck is very strong and has great potential, but it's a pity that Golduck's whereabouts are erratic and there is basically no chance to meet it. "I see. Ash and I are friends. We grew up together since Arnold. We are also strong rivals." Gary said, "I see." Marina has seen Ash, but has never fought with Ash and doesn't know how strong Ash is. Since Ash can beat Dayton, he should be strong and can be evenly matched with Gary. "By the way, you said that you went to Trovita Island to capture powerful Pokémon. Why don't you capture Golduck?" Gary asked. In the original plot, Misty commanded the Golduck to defeat Marina, and anyone with a discerning eye could see that Golduck was quite strong. 0. Asking for flowers. "I already have a Psyduck, and I have bred it for a long time. I don't plan to give up my Psyduck." Marina said, "Then do you know where that Golduck is?" Gary is very interested in this Golduck. Currently, there's only one water Pokemon, Blastoise. He has to send Blastoise to fight every time, which is not a good sign. He originally planned to use a paid Gyarados, but the different colored Gyarados in Mahogany Town has been reserved, so he can only send Blastoise to play each time with a water Pokemon. Blastoise is Gary's trump card Pokemon, so he still needs to have some face. He must capture a few water Pokemon as his subordinates. Gary likes this Golduck very much. I don't know. After that meeting, I don't know where that Golduck went, but that Golduck likes beautiful Stephanie. You can go look for it nearby. Marina suggested forget it then. The Orange Islands are very large, and Golduck is a relatively common Pokemon. Finding a Golduck here is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Bye. See you again. Without knowing the exact location of Golduck, Gary didn't plan to make close friends with Marina. If Sabrina knew, she would be jealous. "Are you leaving Trovita Island now?" Marina asked. "Yes, there's only the North Star left, and the 4 badges are complete." Gary said, "Then I suggest you stay on Trovita Island." Marina said, "Why?" "Based on my many years of experience, the hurricane is coming, so you should stay on Trovita Island in the near future and go to Kumquat Island after the hurricane is over." Marina said, "Hurricane?" Gary looked up at soaring in the sky. The sky was clear, and there was no sign of rain. But considering the changeable climate at sea, Marina's judgment was still credible. However, in Gary's opinion, there was another possibility, that is, Lugia's birth may have begun. Before in Sevii Islands, Gary had been paying attention to the news of Orange Islands. Lugia's birth had not started yet, and according to the time, Gary also got 3 badges from Orange Alliance, and the plot of Lugia began. Calculating the time, it seems that it is now 1:81. The explosion begins. The weather has really changed. When we arrived at the Pokemon Center, soaring in the sky changed from sunny to cloudy, and it was moving towards cloudy. At a glance, the whole soaring in the sky was covered with cumulus clouds. Not only the Orange Islands, but also the inland of Kanto region began to be shrouded in dark clouds. As it started, Gary wondered whether he should intervene this time. According to the original plot, Ash and his friends successfully solved this dilemma, but the process was very dangerous. "Let's help." Gary decided to help. As long as he killed Gilyuda and put the 3 treasures back into the stone niches on the 3 islands, everything would be solved. He came to the Pokemon teleporter and prepared to exchange Pokemon. Sorry, because of the sudden arrival of Blizzard, the transmission line is temporarily out of order and cannot be used for the time being. Joy stood at 450 and announced in front of the teleporter. Failure. Gary was stunned. It seemed that the Lugia explosion had begun. Even the teleporter had failed because it was a big problem. It seemed that Fire Island, Ice Island, and Lightning Island had lost the secret treasure, and the climate of the medical capital region began to become chaotic. After losing the secret treasure, the surrounding ocean currents will lose stability, making the climate of the entire Kanto region unpredictable. If it continues to expand, it will affect the climate of a quarter of the Earth, and the environment of the entire region will be changed. Various natural disasters will occur, causing the extinction of creatures in the region. Eevee's face was full of sorrow. Eevee, who has the ability of predicting danger, can keenly perceive the dangers that will occur in the future. Eevee feels that a disaster is about to happen. Don't be afraid. Everything will be fine. Gary calmed Eevee down and carried Eevee to the lobby of the Pokémon Center to watch the public TV. It was evening, and the TV was playing the news. Emergency notice. Severe climate change has suddenly occurred in the southern islands of Kanto region. Please stay at home and try not to go out. What's the matter? It's just hurricane rain. Why is there such a fuss? Why are all the channels reporting on the news? The uncle holding the remote control complained. This uncle seemed to be a local of Trovita Island. They were used to hurricane rain and didn't think there was anything wrong with this climate change. The whole station was reporting it. It was a big fuss. It seems to have really started. Gary looked out the window. It was raining heavily outside. According to the original plot, Gilyuda deliberately made the climate so bad in order to lure Lugia out and capture her. It must be said that Gilyuda is a madman. He caused a world crisis just to collect things. He is definitely mentally ill. Gary has been watching the news, thinking about when to take action. Gilyuda first captured Moltres, which had already caused climate change. However, due to the lack of the fire treasure, climate change was relatively slow. After Gilyuda captured Zapdos, climate change began to intensify. Professor Oak, what do you think of the great changes in the climate in the southern part of Kanto region? At this moment, Professor Oak appeared on the TV screen. Grandpa, Gary was shocked when he saw Professor Oak. Professor Oak also appeared in Lugia's birth. When the regional climate changed drastically, Professor Oak also took a helicopter to the Orange Islands and issued a global notification. It's over. I can't take Zapdos with me, Gary said with a headache. Originally, Gary planned to take the 3 sacred birds with him, but the transporter broke down, and now Professor Oak appeared on TV again, so there must be no one in Professor Oak's laboratory. Gary thought it would be better for Professor Oak to ask an assistant to help. As an old man, he would be overwhelmed when taking care of so many Pokémon. Boom! A thunder exploded. The rain outside was even more intense, and the bad weather made it impossible for people to stay outside. If they were not careful, they would be blown away by the strong wind. Gary got up and walked out the door. My little friend, the weather outside is bad, and it is very dangerous to go out now, Miss Junsha reminded. In order to protect the safety of outsiders, Junsha also guarded the Pokémon Center to prevent accidents. Miss Junsha, I have a reason to go out. Please get out of the way. Gary said, No, if you insist on going out, I will have to arrest you. Junsha took out the silver bracelet to scare Gary, hoping that Gary would give up. Eevee, use Psychic to calm Miss Junsha down and make her unable to move. Gary said, Before Ms. Junsha could finish her words, she was immediately psychic bound, unable to open her mouth, and only made a hum sound from her nose. Gary's actions naturally attracted the attention of the people around him, but they did not come up to stop him. They were also very curious about what Gary was going to do outside at this time. Gary took Eevee to the door. There was a strong wind outside, and Gary's hair was messy in the wind. It's really fierce. Gary took out an Ultra Ball from his waist bag and opened it. Great. A fiery red figure appeared at the entrance of the Pokémon Center. Moltres, let's go to Shamudi Island. Gary said. Moltres unfolded dual wing beat and flew towards soaring in the sky. No matter how strong the wind was, Moltres was still moving forward in the air. Oh my God! Molters. Who is that trainer? He actually took molters in his eyes. FK. I forgot to take a photo. Everyone in the Pokemon Center was in a mess. In the eyes of the people of the Orange Islands, the three sacred birds symbolized totems. In their eyes, the trainer who can control the three sacred birds is the top trainer. Who is this boy? Xiao, who escaped from the trap, also looked incredible. He didn't expect that Gary, a 4.5-year-old boy, could actually control the legendary Pokemon Molters. In the hall, a girl was stunned. This girl was naturally Marina. She thought Gary's strength was only stronger than Ash. I didn't expect Gary even had legendary Pokemon. At this moment, Gary had already flown to soaring in the sky on Molters. The dark sky made Gary's heart also weighed down with a layer of haze. Molters, can you make soaring in the sky clear? Gary asked. Molters shook his head to indicate that he couldn't. Although Molters has the ability to change the climate, it is only better than ordinary Pokemon is a little stronger. At most, it can change the climate within 100 miles. But Molters has no ability to change the climate that covers the entire area. Then keep flying. Remember to be careful. Your ancestors are going to fight. Gary said, Molters, Aming. 182. Acting in secret, being hunted by the three sacred birds, the three islands outside Shamudi Island are inhabited by the three sacred birds with the name of God. They are the ancestors of the other three sacred birds. Of course, if there are descendants who can surpass them, they can also replace them, but it is highly unlikely, because the three sacred birds sitting on the three islands cannot leave the Orange Islands. They are responsible for stabilizing the ocean currents in the Orange Islands area. Having the name of God is powerful, but the price is that they cannot leave the Orange Islands, which is quite miserable. And at this moment, Molters and Zapdos, who have the names of God of Fire and God of Thunder, have been captured by Gilroda and imprisoned in his flying palace. Ash and Team Rocket are also staying in the flying palace, attacking the cages that trapped Molters and Zapdos. More than 10 kilometers away, Gary rode Molters to Shamudi Island and saw many Pokemon migrating collectively along the way. The subtropical climate of the Orange Islands is turning cold, and the Pokemon living here can only leave here, otherwise they will not be able to survive. 02, I see it. Gary took a telescope and soon found that Galuda's flying palace was hanging on Fire Island. Three figures of red, yellow, and blue can be seen in the sky. They are naturally the three holy birds. Because they mistakenly thought that the other party occupied their territory, the three holy birds were in a rage and started a fight directly and attacked indiscriminately. Anyone who dared to approach them would be attacked by them. Molters fly around. We will go to Ice Island. Gary didn't want to collide head-on with the three holy birds. Gary also wanted to see the level of the three holy birds, but he didn't dare to get close. Although he didn't know the level of these three birds, their strength must have reached the level of legendary Pokemon. Champion-level Pokemon can kill Pokemon below the elite level in one move, not to mention the legendary Pokemon. All of Gary's Pokemon were killed in one move in front of the three holy birds. Molters also knew the horror of the three ancestors. After all, when it was flying around, it had also come to the Orange Islands. It had seen the majesty of the ancestors and dared not act recklessly. Gary was not too afraid. The key was that Molters' intimacy with him was not full. If it really came to a life-and-death situation, it might be better for him to die than for his friend. After flying for a while, Gary and Molters finally arrived at Ice Island and came directly to the top of Ice Island. The altars here were all made of polished stones, and the surface of the stones was covered with a layer of ice. Inside, there was a stone statue of Articuno, which was also covered with a layer of ice. In the bird's beak, there was a transparent bead. That's it. Gary and Eevee jumped off Molters. As soon as he landed, Gary felt his feet slip. If Eevee hadn't used Psychic to stabilize Gary's body, he would definitely fall. Gary didn't waste any words. He immediately walked to the Articuno statue, took out the ice treasure from the statue's beak, and quickly jumped on a Molter's back, preparing to sneak around to the shrine on Shamudi Island. A cry sounded, scaring Gary. Moltres did the same and immediately took off. He immediately saw a huge Articuno flying over. The ice god Articuno was very large, twice as big as Gary's Moltres. Anyway, the three sacred birds with the title of god are twice as big as the normal three sacred birds. LV 100 Articuno / god level, oh my. Seeing Articuno's level, Gary was stunned. Level 100, and with god level potential, this is not a rival that Gary can face now. Moltres, hurry! Gary shouted hurriedly. Moltres also saw the ice god staring at him and immediately took off, but because of the size difference, the ice god quickly closed the distance. The most terrible thing is that the ice god is followed by the celestic god of fire and thunder, and they're chasing each other and fighting. Why are you chasing me? Gary was puzzled because he had obviously gone around in a big circle. Could it be because of this? Gary looked at the ice secret treasure in his hand. It was a transparent bead before, but now it was flashing with blue energy. The ice god behind him opened his mouth and fired an ice beam after he was within the attack range. Even if the beam was not close, he could feel the surrounding temperature starting to drop. Use flamethrower. Gary immediately counterattacked. Moltres immediately counterattacked with flamethrower, but the flame was directly extinguished by ice beam. Moltres felt the deadly cold air and quickly rose up, barely avoiding the attack of the ice god. However, the next moment, a flame shot over, and the fire god used a flame to smack down the ice god. And the next second, a thunderbolt struck the fire god, and the thunder god took the opportunity to sneak attack the fire god and smack down him. Don't take a detour. Fly directly to Shamuti Island. Gary immediately ordered. Since they were discovered, there was no need to take a detour. It was important to quickly deliver the ice secret treasure to the shrine on Shamuti Island. Moltres immediately changed direction and flew. But the Thunder God did not let Ash and Moltres plan to attack with a lightning bolt. Blastoise, use Protect. Gary threw the Pokeball. Great. Crack. Blastoise came out of the Pokeball and landed right in the path of the lightning bolt, using Protect. Boom! The 550 Protect barrier exploded in Thunder Shock, blasting Blastoise away, leaving Gary no time to put Blastoise back into the Pokeball. Blastoise was slightly injured and barely managed to block the attack of the God of Thunder, but Blastoise could not fly, and his body fell towards the frozen sea below. Blastoise used Rapid Spin to enter the water, lurking in the water and using Water Pulse to sneak attack when there was a chance. Remember, delay time, don't confront head-on, Gary said quickly. Hearing this, Blastoise used Rapid Spin and rushed to the ice surface quickly. Although he successfully resisted the attack of the God of Thunder, the God of Thunder did not intend to let Gary go. He was about to attack again, and a flame shot over and hit him. Fire God. YYDS. Gary was pleasantly surprised. This Fire God was just one of his own. He first helped him fight the Ice God, and then the Thunder God. After the Fire God smacked down the Thunder God, he glanced at Gary and Moltres. No way. I'm riding Moltres, and I'm fighting my own people. Gary also noticed the Fire God's gaze and felt something was wrong. Articuno, use Mist. Gary didn't dare to gamble and immediately released Articuno. Great. After Articuno came out, he saw the three ancestors and his heart tightened, and he immediately spit up Mist. 183. Lugia shows up to rescue Articuno. Just fight if you can't win. Hide in the sea. Gary said, Articuno felt a headache. He had just been with Gary for a few days. The first time he used it to fight, he was fighting his own ancestors. What a pitfall. Moltres, use Agility, fly over there. Gary ordered hurriedly. Moltres immediately used Agility and headed towards Shamuti Island at the fastest speed in his life. Gary also used a telescope to find the altar on the small island outside Shamuti Island and saw Shur and Ash and the others. On the altar island outside Shamuti Island, Ash and his group were worried about the missing ice treasure. They were looking in the direction of Ice Island, but soon they saw a figure flying towards them in the distance. Someone is coming, Misty said in surprise. That is Moltres. As a Pokémon observer, Xiao Jian immediately recognized the Pokémon's outline and color as Moltres. Really? Why is Moltres a little small? Flora asked in confusion. Yes, it is indeed a little small. Xiao said. No, that is another Moltres, not the god of fire, and there is a person on the back of that Moltres. As a Pokémon, the Hippo King saw the figure in the distance clearly. What? Another Moltres? There is someone else. Who is that? Flora, do you know? Misty asked Flora, and Flora was the only one who knew the situation of Shamudi Island. I don't know. Flora shook her head. During this period, Moltres' figure was getting closer and closer, and everyone gradually saw who was on Moltres' back. That's Gary, Misty exclaimed. What? Gary? Ash was shocked. He never expected Gary to appear here. Oh no, the three birds are chasing us. Xiao immediately saw the three birds chasing Gary. Gary, who was about to reach Shamudi Island, also saw the three birds chasing us. What kind of hatred and grudges? Is it that serious? Gary was also in a headache. The three birds really chased us. Blastoise and Articuno, who he sent out, could not keep up with the speed of the three birds. Because he wanted to capture Macamp, Gary brought 5 Pokémon with him. He had released 4 Pokémon so far, and one Pokémon was Magneton, which was not even level 40. It would be a suicide if he released it. Moltres, come on, we're almost there, Gary said. Moltres was already flying at full speed, but because of its smaller size, its speed was almost twice as slow as the other birds. The ice god caught up with him, still thinking about the ice secret treasure in Gary's hand, and opened its mouth to spit up a cold beam of light. EV, use Fire Blast. Gary could only forcefully fight back. Chi! EV spit up a large flame, but the moment it touched the ice beam, it was directly frozen. The cold beam directly hit Moltres' wings, instantly freezing them. Moltres, with one wing frozen, fell downwards. Moltres resisted the cold and tried to glide in the air. If Moltres had not had flames on his body, it would not be as simple as just freezing his wings. Gary looked at Shamudi Island not far away, and then at the 3 angry birds behind him. When he turned around, he saw that the god of ice was hit by the skills of the celestic god of thunder and the god of fire, and fell towards the ice. After the god of ice fell, the celestic god of thunder and the god of fire also looked at Gary with unfriendly faces. Moltres, come back. Gary was at his wit's end and could only put Moltres back into the Pokeball, making the celestial god of fire and thunder lose his target. Without Moltres, Gary fell to the ground below holding EV. However, just when Gary was about to let EV use Psychic to stabilize himself, the ice below cracked and a waterspout rose up, catching Gary and EV, and the waterspout quickly moved towards Shamudi Island. Lugia! Gary was shocked and immediately realized that it was Lugia who did it. This guy finally made a move. Seeing this, the celestial god of fire and thunder immediately spit up with fire and lightning, and the waterspout seemed to have self-awareness normal, swaying left and right on the water surface, avoiding all attacks and successfully coming to the altar. Before Gary could react, the waterspout burst out with a force, throwing Gary and Eevee out and landing squarely on the altar. Gary, why are you here? Even though he saw Gary in person, Ash still couldn't believe it. Now is not the time to talk about this, Gary said as he ran to the shrine of the altar. There were already 2 secret treasures placed inside, and only the last one was missing. Gary took out the ice secret treasure and placed it in the vacant position. When everyone saw the ice secret treasure, they were immediately delighted. They were worried about what to do before, but they didn't expect Gary to directly send the ice secret treasure. However, nothing happened when the 3 secret treasures were placed in the shrine. After a few seconds, the fire secret treasure, ice secret treasure, and thunder secret treasure emitted red, blue, and yellow light. A magical power spread out from the shrine. Wherever it passed, the covering ice and snow all dissipated, revealing the lines on the surface of the altar. Each line emitted a green light, and a green stream of water sprayed out from the stone pillar under the shrine and spread outward. The celestic god of fire and thunder saw Cal here and rushed over immediately, and lightning and fire attacked one after another. I won't let you continue to destroy. EV, Use all your strength to destroy the death beam. Pikachu, Thunderbolt. Gary and Ash stood up and issued orders almost at the same time. Eevee gathered the beam in the front, condensed the energy to the maximum, and sprayed the orange-red destruction death beam. Pikachu did the same and used his strongest Thunderbolt, Li Hao Xiao. The four beam skills converged together, and without any surprise, the skills used by Eevee and Pikachu were beaten back step by step, which was not Rival's luck at all. Just when the attacks of the God of Fire and the God of Thunder were about to come, a water tornado appeared, blocking the skills of both sides. At the same time, the water tornado dissipated and a pure white minister-type bird Pokémon appeared. LV1 10 Lugia Top God. Gary was shocked. He didn't expect that there was still the potential of Top God after God level. If so, there is still higher potential in Top God. After all, Arceus is higher than all legendary Pokémon. Lugia cried to Celestic God of Fire and Thunder, signaling them to stop. Celestic God of Fire and Thunder was angry at this time. Even if you are Lugia, I will not give you face. I will baptize Lugia with fire and thunder right away. 184. Lugia versus two divine birds. A mysterious shield appeared around Lugia, blocking the attack of Celestial Fire God of Thunder, and then led the two sacred birds to the periphery of the altar to fight. Gary looked at Ash and others and asked, "What should we do now?" The three secret treasures have been placed in the shrine, but the rage of the three sacred birds has not subsided, and the bad weather around has not disappeared. Frilla, play the Song of Dedication. The Hippo King said, "Oh, it's talking telepathy." Gary was shocked when he heard the voice of the Hippo King. LV50 Hippo King 3/Elite. Gary almost forgot that there was another Hippo King in the plot. Frilla was a little surprised. She didn't expect that the legend at the festival was true, and the Song of Dedication could really save the world. "Frilla, please," Misty said. Frilla looked at Lugia, who was fighting in the distance, nodded firmly, took the sea flute, and played the Song of Dedication. As the music sounded, the 7 stone pillars around the altar kept glowing. These 7 stone pillars correspond to 7 notes. Every time Frilla played a note, a stone pillar would light up, as if entering a series of codes. The energy gushing from the altar flowed into the sea along the water, covering the entire sea with a layer of green light film. The originally turbulent sea calmed down instantly. The ice surface that froze the sea began to melt at a speed visible to the naked eye, and the soaring in the sky, which was covered by dark clouds, gradually released sunlight. All the Pokémon affected by the melee of the 3 mythical birds were recovering, and the defeated God of Ice also woke up. The God of Fire and the God of Thunder, who were fighting Lugia in the distance, also stopped attacking, and the rage in their hearts receded and returned to calm. After seeing the 2 birds calm down, Lugia also stopped fighting. The Ice God also came to them. The 4 legendary Pokémon just stared at each other, as if they were communicating. However, just when everything was going in a good direction, a triangular and diamond-shaped iron pipe flew towards Lugia. Lugia was accidentally trapped by these iron pipes, and the iron pipes began to release discharge. "It's Galuta's stuff." Xiao Jian immediately realized that these iron pipes were Galuta's props for capturing the 3 birds. "Damn, this guy is never done," Ash said angrily, but he couldn't stop it immediately because the distance was too far. Don't worry, and you don't think that kind of machine can subdue Lugia," Gary said indifferently. "That's Lugia, who has the ability to destroy the world, and Gilyuda can't deal with it." "Gary, Gilyuda used this to capture Moltres and Zapdos," Misty reminded. If it weren't for Gilu's arrogance, Gary and his team wouldn't have had a chance to rescue the Celestic God of Fire and Thunder. Even if he was caught, so what? Gary pointed to the flying palace that had crashed on a small island in the distance and said, "He can't control Lugia, and can he get away?" Everyone looked at the crashed flying palace, and then they realized that Gilu couldn't escape, and they were worried in vain. However, before everyone could think of what to do, they saw Lugia forcibly resist the iron pipe that bound him outside, and a cyclone wave condensed in his mouth, and a beam of light crossed a distance of several kilometers and rushed towards the flying palace in the distance. Boom! The flying palace was attacked, and the iron pipes surrounding Lugia lost power and fell directly into the sea. Ash and others were dumbfounded. This is more than 2 kilometers away. This is the strength of legendary Pokémon. It's really terrifying. Kami. At this time, a figure flew over here. That's Articuno and Blastoise. Everyone was instantly attracted by Articuno and saw Articuno carrying Blastoise's tortoise shell and flying over, landing in front of Gary. Gary, where did this Articuno come from? Ash asked curiously. He had never thought that this Articuno was Gary's Pokémon. This Articuno is a Pokémon I captured. Gary said, What? You captured a Pokémon? Ash was shocked. He had seen Gary flying here on Moltres before and put Moltres into the Pokeball. In addition to the Zapdos used at the Indigo Plateau Conference, Gary captured the 3 sacred birds. Yeah, aren't you envious? Gary said proudly. Ash pouted. He was no longer a rookie trainer, and he understood what legendary Pokémon was like as he traveled. Especially since Gary used Zapdos at the Indigo Plateau Conference. Ash had learned about legendary Pokémon and knew that legendary Pokémon were very rare. Just seeing legendary Pokémon was rare enough, not to mention catching them. And now, Gary actually caught Articuno and Moltres, who were as famous as Zapdos. It was so surprising. I will catch legendary Pokémon for you in the future, Ash said with a sullen face. Really? Then you better work hard. Gary sarcastically encouraged Ash. Speaking of catching legendary Pokémon, Ash did catch them. In the Alola region, Ash caught 3 legendary Pokémon, namely Naganadel and Melmetal, and even the top B Solgaleo. But these are things for the future. It's still early now. Lugia and the 3 sacred birds redirected the ocean currents on the seabed, allowing the environment of the Orange Islands to completely return to normal. Everything returned to normal within the time of the song. After the climate was restored, the 3 sacred birds flew back to their own islands, and under the witness of Lugia, they once again made a leap without interfering with each other. Then, Lugia flew back to the altar to express his gratitude. Thank you for your help. I hope you won't spread my story everywhere. Lugia said. Why? Ash was puzzled. It was rare to encounter such a thing, so of course he had to use it as a topic of bragging in the future. You idiot, Lugia has the ability to control ocean currents. If the matter spreads, there is no guarantee that people like Gilyuda will not appear again. Gary explained. Is that so? Ash was ashamed, thinking that he had not considered it as comprehensively as Gary. Lugia looked at Gary and was very satisfied. Lugia originally planned to ask Ash for help, but who would have thought that Gary would suddenly come out with the ice treasure and fly to the altar here? Lugia really likes Gary, a human boy who is brave enough to do good. Just treat me as a legend. It will be a good thing for this planet. After saying that, Lugia flew towards soaring in the sky, plunged into the sea, and disappeared without a trace. 185. Disaster subsided. Shamudi Island incident ended. Gary, Ash, and others silently looked at the location where Lugia sneaked into, all in silence, and also looked at the sun at dusk. The sun at dusk emits golden sunlight, which is warm and soft, and even if you look directly at the sun, you will not feel dazzling. Ash, a voice suddenly came from behind. Everyone turned around and saw Ash's mother Delia hurriedly running over here. Behind Delia were Professor Oak and Professor Achiki, as well as a few strangers. Delia showed concern for Ash, and her overflowing maternal love almost overflowed the screen, performing a drama of deep love for her child. Gary, didn't you go to Trovita Island? Why are you here? Professor Oak was also confused when he saw Gary. Every time Gary replaced Pokémon, he would report his movements to Professor Oak. So Professor Oak was very relieved about Gary's safety. He didn't expect Gary to run to Shamudi Island. This was too messed up. Grandpa, I saw the news and rushed here from Trovita Island. Gary said to Ash, Trovita Island is far from Shamudi Island. All the flying Pokémon you have are in the laboratory. How did you get here in such a short time? Professor Omu asked in confusion. The weather in the Orange Islands is getting bad. Professor Oak came here from Palatown by helicopter. Gary doesn't have any flying Pokémon that he can ride. Even if Gary has captured a flying Pokémon recently, it's too far for the Pokémon to fly over. Moreover, the weather is so bad that if the Pokémon is not strong, it can't fly over. Nothing. I captured Moltres and flew all the way here. Gary said, I originally planned to keep it a secret and give Professor Oak a surprise later. Since I can't keep it a secret, I'll reveal the surprise in advance. What? You captured Moltres? Professor Oak said in shock. Professor Oak, not only Moltres, Gary also captured Articuno. Xiao Jian added. What? Professor Oak was so shocked that he was speechless. He thought that Gary had already conquered Zapdos, but he didn't expect that Gary had conquered the remaining 2 of the 3 sacred birds. Professor Oak, it seems that I will have another chance to see you publish an academic paper on the 3 sacred birds. Professor Uchiki said enviously. Haha, it's still early. Professor Oak laughed triumphantly, and at the same time, felt very proud. He is indeed his proud grandson. Everyone, Pokemon is tired. Let's go to the Pokemon Center to talk more. Professor Uchiki suggested. So everyone went to the Pokemon Center in Shimudi Island. As for Gilyuda, no one knew where he had gone. Anyway, after this incident, Gilyuda would definitely go bankrupt and would definitely be wanted by the police. What awaits him will be a lifetime of imprisonment or even the death penalty. In the town of Shimudi Island, the Orange Islands incident came to a temporary end. Gary and Ash were having dinner at an open-air restaurant on the island. After the disaster, both people and Pokemon were hungry and wanted to have a good meal. You said that the Snake Demon also wants to jump into the Slashing Lord Alliance. Ash said slurredly with all kinds of food in his mouth at the dinner table. Yes, please swallow the food in your mouth before speaking. Gary reminded. Just now, when eating, Professor Oak revealed that Gary was also going to challenge the Orange Alliance, which stimulated Xiao. After Ash swallowed the food in his mouth, he immediately asked, How many badges have you got now? I got 3 badges. As he said that, Ash also opened his vest, which contained 3 Orange Alliance gym badges. Don't show off. I said I came from Trovita Island. Do you think I have collected fewer badges than you? Gary said, Well, I must get the 4th badge before you. Ash's competitive spirit came up. I can fly to Kumquat Island, can you? Gary said, I have Charizard. Ash said, Your Charizard doesn't listen to you, and you still expect Charizard to carry you for a long-distance flight. Gary complained. That was in the past. Charizard now obeys my command. Ash retorted. Gary was quite surprised, but calculating the time, Ash tamed Charizard before challenging the last Orange Alliance gym, which was about this time. Oh, that's not bad. But your Charizard can't carry 3 people for flying, so you will still be 1 step behind me. Gary said, Ash! Exclamation point. Charizard can carry people, but Ash is traveling with 3 people, and Charizard can't carry 3 people for a long-distance flight. Damn, Misty! Xiaojian, you should also capture a Pokemon that can carry people and fly long distances. Ash immediately suggested that Misty and Xiaojian capture a Pokemon that can carry people and fly long distances. I don't want to. I want to be a water Pokemon master in the future. Misty immediately refused. Gary looked at the Togepi that Misty was holding. Togepi could eventually evolve into Togekiss, which is the title of White Devil, and can carry people and fly long distances. I like to observe Pokemon slowly. Capturing a Pokemon that can carry people and fly will not fly often. Over time, it may make the Pokemon depressed. Xiaojian said, Ash's plan was declared bankrupt. Then let's see who can beat the chief trainer of the Orange Alliance. Ash knew that he couldn't collect badges as fast as Gary, so he compared the final results. Anyway, the ultimate goal of collecting Orange Alliance badges is to challenge the chief trainer of the Orange Alliance. What's the point of competing? I can definitely beat him. If we want to compete, we should compete first. Gary said, It's not fair. You can fly on Pokemon. You are slow, but you blame others for being fast. No, we play rock, paper, scissors. The winner will challenge the chief trainer first, and the loser can only challenge later. Why? I don't want it. The 2 of them started fighting over the challenge to become the chief trainer. Professor Oak and Delia looked at Gary and Ash fighting and felt nostalgic. They hadn't seen such a scene for a long time. After dinner, everyone stayed on Shamuti Island for a few days. Professor Oak and Professor Uchiki stayed to continue observing the climate changes nearby. Gary and Ash mainly cooperated with Ms. Jun Sha to record their statements. Gilyudo was also arrested by Jun Sha. Lorelei came directly to take him and brought him back to Alliance for trial. When the subsequent events on Shamuti Island were handled, Gary left Shamuti Island with Professor Oak's resentful eyes. Because Moulter's and Articuno's intimacy with Gary was not full, they would not leave him in Professor Oak's laboratory. 186 Lugon Gym Doubles. Kumquat Island. Located in the north of the Orange Islands, the island is not large. It is just a village, but there are high-rise buildings inside. Because it is close to the Johto region, it has become a famous luxury resort with a very developed economy. The Northern Star of the Southern Cross is located here. She is a very mature and beautiful big sister named Sitopolis. If Xiao sees her, he will definitely pursue her. However, Sitopolis is still worth pursuing. The most luxurious trainer hotel on Kumquat Island is her property. She is definitely a rich woman. If you can pursue her, you can save 10 years of detours and get a son for free. Moreover, the Lugon Gym is a hotel opened by Sitopolis. The hotel also held a battle event. Trainers who can win 3 consecutive games can stay in the hotel for free for 1 day, and meals are also provided. Gary took the Moulters flying for an hour and came to Kumquat Island in 560. He didn't even need to ask for directions to find the hotel opened by Sitopolis, because Sitopolis' hotel was built in the most conspicuous location. Ding. Posted task. Get Lugon Gym badge / reward. High-level rare candy X5. Random permanent skill learner. Random in-battle effect item X1. The rare candy rewarded by this task is also high-level. It seems that the Pokémon used by Sitopolis are all above level 49 and should be between levels 50 and 55. Gary entered the hotel. Welcome. The ladies who greeted the guests bowed to welcome them, which made Gary a little uncomfortable. He didn't like the service of being servile at every turn. Gary looked around and asked, "Is this the Lugon Gym?" "Yes, this is both a gym and a hotel." "Are you here to stay or to challenge the gym?" A receptionist asked. "I'm here to challenge the gym." "Is the gym owner Sitopolis here?" Gary asked. "Yes, please wait. I'll go and inform the president." The receptionist took out a walkie-talkie and reported, "President, a trainer is here to challenge you. Please reply if you receive it." The lady repeated it 3 times, and soon there was a response. It was a female voice, and it was unknown if it was Sitopolis. "Please wait. The president will be here soon." 3 minutes later, a pink-haired woman in a Japanese yellow work suit came out from the corner. The woman was Sitopolis. Sitopolis immediately looked at Gary in the waiting area and walked over quickly. "Hello, I'm Sitopolis, the gym owner of Chuanshan Gym." Sitopolis introduced herself generously. "Hello, my name is Gary from Palatown. I'm here to challenge the Kumquat Island Gym." Gary responded, "I know, follow me." Sitopolis herself is a strong woman. Her style of doing things is very quick, no extra nonsense, and took Gary to the battle site on the roof of the hotel. On the battlefield, let me tell you about the battle method. The Lugon Gym is a doubles match, but there is a special rule. That is, if one of the 2 Pokémon sent by both sides loses the ability to fight, it will be considered a loss. Sitopolis said, "This rule is indeed very special. In a normal doubles match, if one of the 2 Pokémon loses, the other can continue to fight. And there's a way to fight in doubles proposed by Sitopolis. That is, focus on attacking a Pokémon in the battle, and you can win as long as you defeat it." "I understand, we can start." Gary said, "Okay, let's start." Sitopolis threw out the Pokeball without any extra words. "Go ahead, Marowak." "Alakazam." "Great." LV52 Marowak / Quasi-Elite. LV54 Alakazam 3 / Elite. Both of Sitopolis' Pokémon are not weak, especially Alakazam, which has elite potential and is comparable to Gary's Alakazam. EV Blastoise, you guys are so good. Gary threw out a Pokeball. Kami. Chi. Blastoise came out of the Pokeball and Eevee ran into the field. Blastoise and Eevee are one tall and one short, one fat and one thin, forming a sharp contrast with a great sense of contrast. Blastoise and Eevee are really a strange combination, Satopolis muttered. The battle begins. Marowak uses the bone boomerang to attack Eevee, and Alakazam uses Psychic to assist Marowak's bones. Satopolis ordered immediately. Marowak threw the bone club in his hand to Eevee, and Alakazam used his telekinesis to speed up the bone club, making the bone club's flying speed faster. It can be seen that Satopolis wants to work together to defeat Eevee. After all, Pokémon that have not evolved are weaker in everyone's eyes. Eevee dig. Gary quickly issued an order. Blastoise uses Rain Dance. Bang! Eevee immediately burrowed into the ground to avoid the rapidly attacking Bone Club, while Blastoise completely ignored the Bone Club and used Rain Dance. The sky of the venue was immediately covered by a layer of dark clouds, and a drizzle fell. Bang! With a sound, the flying bones spun back again and hit Blastoise's shell, which was not painful at all. The bone club that hit the target also flew back to Marowak's hand under the control of Alakazam's confusion. Blastoise used Hydro Pump on Marowak. Gary's target was clear, that was Marowak. Kami, Blastoise aimed his gun barrel at Marowak and sprayed 2 Hydro Pumps, but Alakazam did not give him a chance. He stood in front of Marowak and used Light Screen to block the bubbles. Bang! Hydro Pump hit Light Screen, which exploded. The impact of Hydro Pump pushed Alakazam and Marowak back together. What a powerful power! Satopolis was also secretly shocked. He did not expect Gary Blastoise's Hydro Pump to be so powerful. Dab! Before Satopolis could react, Eevee broke through and came just behind Galagala. The water is breaking. Gary shouted, "Watch out behind you." Use the bone club to block it. Satopolis shouted hurriedly. Marowak was very experienced, and he didn't even turn his head. Then he swung his club backwards, and bang! The water blade collided with the bone club. Gala! Marowak was shocked, and the bone club in his hand disappeared. No, it was knocked out. What? Eevee turned his body, and the water blade, formed by the water power of his tail, was swung out again, hitting Marowak's abdomen and sending him flying into the sky. After the attack, Eevee found that he couldn't move. Alakazam on the side used Psychic to bind Eevee. Hydro Cannon. However, Gary's order immediately made Satopolis panic. Satopolis was shocked. Hydro Cannon is the strongest secret of the water system. If it hits Marowak, it will definitely defeat him. Alakazam, go and save Marowak. Use Light Screen. Satopolis shouted quickly. Because of the battle rules, both sides must lose a Pokémon. So, Satopolis must save Marowak, otherwise it will lose. 187. Collect all Southern Cross badges, Chi-E. Eevee suddenly felt that her body was no longer restrained. Just as she was about to attack Alakazam, Alakazam suddenly disappeared. Alakazam suddenly appeared in front of Marowak and created several light screens for defense. But these light screens were like ordinary glass in front of Hydro Cannon, shattering layer by layer, and the powerful Hydro Pump instantly swallowed Alakazam. Marowak fell towards the ground and was not attacked by Hydro Cannon, escaping the disaster. DF. Alakazam still had special defense, and with the damage reduction of Light Screen, he was able to withstand this Hydro Cannon, but he was also seriously injured. Satopolis finally had a chance to breathe, but she would not choose to breathe. Hydro Cannon has side effects. Blastoise's energy is disordered, and she can't move for the time being. This is a great opportunity to attack. Use Thunderbolt and Stone Edge on Blastoise. Satopolis briefly targeted Blastoise. Try to kill Blastoise instantly. Eevee. Use Waterfall to attack Marowak. 0-2, Gary countered. Eevee quickly rushed towards Marowak, covered with a layer of water, and rushed towards Marowak with amazing momentum, while Marowak was using Stone Edge to attack Blastoise and had no time to deal with him. Boom! Bang! An explosion and a tackle sounded. Thunderbolt and Stone Edge both hit Blastoise, and Eevee also knocked Marowak away. Is it over? Satopolis looked at Blastoise, who was covered in black smoke. He was hit without any defense and suffered serious injuries. After all, real combat is not a game. If you punch someone's arm with your fist, you will naturally not cause much damage, or even no damage. But if you hit someone's head and vulnerable parts, the damage will be very high. Therefore, in real battles, Pokémon will receive more damage when attacked without any defense. Suddenly, the black smoke dispersed, revealing the body of Blastoise. Withstood. Satopolis frowned. She didn't expect Gary's Blastoise to be able to withstand this attack. The defense ability was too strong. Use Water Pulse to attack Alakazam and Marowak at the same time. Gary ordered immediately. Bang! Bang! Blastoise's two barrels each fired a water ball, shooting at Alakazam and Marowak respectively. Alakazam was in a headache at the moment. In order to take care of Marowak, it had consumed too much of its mental energy, but the two sides were one, and if either one lost, it would lose. Alakazam immediately used Teleport and took Marowak to the sky instantly. Blastoise was like a turret, firing Water Pulse nonstop. Teleport was very mentally draining, and even Alakazam could only use it a limited number of times. 20 times was the limit. These 20 times were only used by Alakazam himself. If Marowak was to be brought along, 10 times would be the limit. Eevee kept staring at Alakazam, who was constantly teleporting, and Eevee seemed to be able to sense the fluctuations of confusion. Alakazam teleported again, and Eevee suddenly disappeared from the spot, and then Eevee, Alakazam, and Marowak appeared in the same place. Eevee appeared beside Alakazam and Marowak, and immediately swung his tail, and the power of water quickly formed a water blade to slash over. Bang! The surging water blade hit Alakazam and Marowak at the same time, knocking them out. Kami, Blastoise didn't say anything and seized the rare opportunity to fire the Hydro Pump. Bang! Hydro Pump accurately hit Alakazam and Marowak, sending them flying more than 10 meters away. The two Pokémons lay on the ground, motionless, their eyes spinning in circles, and were defeated at the same time. Alakazam and Marowak lost their combat ability at the same time. Gary was also quite surprised. He had planned to defeat Marowak, but Alakazam always asked Marowak to resist damage, and finally they were defeated together. The battle was over, and Lee gave the Jade Star badge to Gary. Ding! Mission completed. Rewards have been sent to the space backpack. After giving the badge to Gary, Satopolis asked curiously, "Your Pokémon is very strong. I want to know why your Eevee can teleport?" "My Eevee can't teleport. It uses Copycat to master teleport." Gary explained. "So it's Copycat." Satopolis suddenly realized she was still worried about why Eevee could even master teleport. Even psychic Pokémon rarely master the skill teleport. Even Eevee's evolved form, the Sun Pokémon, can't learn it. Gary's Eevee took the initiative to use Copycat to use teleport. Of course, it was because he had been with Professor Oak and had seen Gary's Alakazam use teleport, so he learned it. Unexpectedly, in this battle with Satopolis, he would fight Alakazam, and Eevee would naturally use a teleport attack. After answering Satopolis' doubts, Gary stayed at Satopolis' hotel. Since he defeated Satopolis, he didn't have to pay for the accommodation. When he came to the room, Gary couldn't wait to see what the skill learner and props that were randomly rewarded were. Extreme Quick Claw. After carrying it, when Pokémon uses skills, there is a 40% chance that it will take the initiative. X1. Gravity Permanent Skill Learner. Quick Claw. Seeing that the in-battle effect item rewarded by 907 was Quick Claw, Gary felt that this item was useless. Quick Claw still has some use in the game. After all, the game is turn-based. One person fights once, and it depends on who is faster. Quick Claw can ignore speed and is a very good item in PvP. However, in real Pokémon battles, even if Quick Claw is triggered, it only makes Pokémon move faster. So this item is still a little useful for those slow-moving Pokémon, but not very useful. For the skill Gravity, Gary's evaluation is SOSO. The skill Gravity is used to restrict Pokémon flying. If Pokémon knows how to change the magnetic field, it can offset the suppression of gravity. However, This skill can be used to assist Pokémon training, allowing Pokémon to perform performance training in a gravity environment, which is quite beneficial. Next is Orange Alliance. I hope the reward this time will be better. Gary decided to leave for Pomelo Island tomorrow morning. Pomelo Island, Orange Alliance headquarters, is here. As long as you get 4 cross-star badges, you will be qualified to challenge the chief trainer. The sun is shining. Gary arrives at Daxiang Orange Island on Moltres. Hello, my name is Gary. I want to challenge Orange Alliance chief trainer. Gary entered the Pokemon Center and directly applied to Joy to challenge the chief trainer. 188. Orange Alliance Ding. Task released. Leave photos and footprints in the Victor's Palace /rewards. High-level rare candy X20, Bronze Crown X1, Silver Crown X1, Ability Enhancement Stone, Ability Level +1, X3. As soon as Gary finished speaking, the system released the task. This task reward has an extra item that Gary has never seen before, the Ability Enhancement Stone, which increases the ability level by 1. Obviously, the Ability Enhancement Stone is used to enhance the ability. The abilities of Pokemon in the game are fixed, and there is no difference between the strong and weak abilities. But in reality, Pokemon's abilities are strong and weak, such as Charizard's Fierce Fire ability. Not every Charizard can get a great improvement after the ability is triggered. For example, the Charmander that Ash captured later, the improvement after the Fierce Fire ability of that Charmander was triggered was very terrifying. Not only did the power of the fire skills increase several times, but even the attack, defense, and speed were also improved. So in reality, Pokemon's abilities are divided into strong and weak. Since the system rewards ability enhancement stones, it also means that in reality, there are Pokemon with stronger abilities than the same abilities. But at the moment, Gary has no time to think. He still has to continue to apply to challenge the chief trainer. Oh, challenge the chief trainer. It's been a long time since anyone has come to challenge. Joy asked with some surprise. Then may I ask, Mr. Gary, have you collected all 4 badges of the Southern Cross? Of course. Gary took out the badge box and opened it, and there were 4 badges of the Southern Cross inside. Seeing the 4 badges in the badge, Joy was surprised and then said, "Excuse me, Mr. Gary, do you have something to prove your identity?" Here, Gary took out the Pokédex and handed it to Joy. Joy took the Pokédex and confirmed Gary's identity. "Okay, your identity is confirmed. I will help you register." Joy typed Gary's information on the keyboard randomly and then asked, "Okay, the application has been approved. The match between you and Drake will be held in a week at Pomelo Stadium at 9 a.m., and it will be a full-on battle. Can we just go there when the time comes?" Gary asked. "Yes, please prepare well. Do you have any other questions?" Nurse Joy asked. "No more. Thank you." After confirming the time, Gary came to the teleporter area and planned to ask Professor Oak to send a few Pokemon over. Drake is currently the chief trainer of the Orange Alliance. Defeating him can get so many rewards, which shows that Drake is still quite powerful, especially Drake's Dragonite. Judging from the performance and the animation plot, the Dragonite is definitely at the elite level, otherwise it would not be so easy to defeat Ash's several Pokemon. On Shamudi Island, Gary saw the level of Pikachu. Currently, Pikachu is at level 53, which is the semi-elite level. Judging from this, the strength of the 6 Pokemon in Drake's hands is roughly between semi-elite and elite. Gary decided to use Blastoise, Bandura, Electivire, Moltres, EV, and Articuno to fight. After teleporting Bandura and Electivire, Gary rented an indoor venue and began to adjust the contest conditions of the 6 Pokemon. The current levels of the 6 Pokemon are as follows. Blastoise LV 59, Bandura LV 63, Electivire LV 52, Moltres LV 50, Articuno LV 55, EV 53. After the Pokemon level reaches level 50, the improvement speed is very slow. Even if you train every day, it is good to be able to improve by 1 level in a month. This is still a Pokemon with high potential. Those Pokemon with quasi-elite potential can only be upgraded by 1 level in 2 or 3 months. Gary estimated that it would take at least 2 to 3 years for a Pokémon with champion potential to grow to the champion level. Of course, except for Ash. For those with special abilities, as long as the Pokémon has good potential, the level can be quickly upgraded. For example, Ash is born with the power of Wave. The power of Wave is a kind of spiritual energy, which is very helpful for the growth of Pokémon. In the Journey chapter, the strength of the 5 Pokémon that Ash captured was able to be upgraded to the champion level, thanks to the history of Wave. Except for Gilfish and Jengar, which were picked up for free, Dragonite, Lucario, and Scallion Soldier were not very high when they were captured by Gary. Especially Lucario was hatched by Ash from a Pokémon egg. He was able to keep pace with the champion-level Pokémon so quickly because of the power of Wave. However, Lucario can control the Wave by himself, which is a very suitable Pokémon for Ash Breeder. In ancient times, each Wave Guide had a Lucario. This is why Ash always gets to the full team battle every time he goes to a new region and uses the newly captured Pokémon to participate in the Alliance Conference. As Ash grows older, even if Ash cannot control the Wave Guide in his body will spread out unintentionally to help the Pokémon around him grow. Moreover, the power of the Wave Guide can not only help Pokémon grow, but also has many other functions, such as removing the negative mental contest condition, such as confusion, sleep, obsession, etc. Contest conditions have a probability of being removed. Because Ash woke up Pokémon by shouting in many battles, he actually accidentally triggered the power of the Wave Guide and ended the negative contest condition of the Pokémon. But these are all later stories, and this Wave Guide power belongs to Ash and has nothing to do with Gary. The only ability Gary can tap is the ability of Breeder. But for now, Gary still has to defeat Drake first. After gathering the Pokémon, Gary began to show Drake's game videos to his Pokémon, so that his Pokémon could understand all of Drake's Pokémon. Drake's Pokémon were not only the 6 Pokémon that fought Ash, but also Rhydon, Arcanine, and Gyarados. Drake's strength is not very strong. No one has defeated him for 3 consecutive years. He is so lucky. Gary complained to Song. Originally, Gary paid attention to Drake's strength, but after watching Drake's previous game videos, except for the relatively strong Dragonite, the strength of Drake's other Pokémon was just normal, and there were even many mistakes in command during the battle. It can only be said that the level of the Orange Alliance's Chief Trainer is too poor. Especially this Chief Trainer Drake is too bad, and he can't compare with any of the Elite Four of Kanto Alliance. Okay, now that we've watched the video of the game, you all have a general idea of what skills Drake's Pokémon can use. Use this week to adjust your contest condition to prepare for the battle in 10 weeks. Gary said, Kami, he, go, the Blastoise, and the others all nodded, saying that they would definitely play well in the game in a week. Drake knew how powerful they were. 189. Ash arrives at Pomelo Island, Kumquat Island. News broadcast. Here's a piece of news for you. Trainer Gary from Palatown will challenge the Chief Trainer Drake this Sunday. Please watch it on time on Sunday morning. Damn it, Gary has already challenged the Chief Trainer. Ash looked at the broadcast on TV and gritted his teeth. His teeth were about to break. Gary is really fast. It's only been a few days, and he not only got the last badge, but also challenged Drake. Misty exclaimed, Yes, it should be riding Moltres to have such a fast speed. Xiao Jian said. Previously on Shamudi Island, Gary told Professor Oak about his research on Moltres and Articuno, and Xiao Jian was listening. Among the 3 sacred birds, Moltres has the strongest physical strength and endurance, because Moltres can restore energy through sunlight, and the distance of each migration is the farthest among the 3 sacred birds. Ash and his group have just arrived at Kumquat Island and are planning to challenge the last gym. Halfway through, they see a TV in the glass window, which is posting a notification message. For the people of Orange Islands, challenging the Orange Alliance Chief Trainer is a very worthwhile game to watch, because Drake has not lost a single game so far, which makes the people of Orange Islands proud of him. Many 787 people will go to Pomelo Island to watch the Chief Trainer Challenge, and it is hard to get ticket. The game is on Sunday, which is 3 days later. Can we get there in time now? Xiao really wants to go to the scene to watch Gary's game. The distance between Kumquat Island and Pomelo Island is not far. If Ash can successfully get the Jade Star badge today, we will hurry tomorrow and arrive before the evening, just in time. Xiao Jian analyzed. Then Ash, don't hold back, and do your best in the gym game later. Misty urged. Don't worry, I won't lose. And can you be more confident in me? I never lost in the first 3 gyms of Orange Alliance, Ash said proudly. Compared with collecting badges in Kanto region, Ash's badge collection process in Orange Islands was quite smooth. He basically got the badges by his own strength, not charity. So, the 3 of them quickened their pace and headed to Sitopolis Hotel. 2 days later, Gary's Pokémon contest condition was adjusted. He did some warm-up exercises in the morning and rested in the afternoon to maintain the best contest condition for tomorrow morning's competition. Gary himself stayed in the Pokémon Center and didn't go anywhere. It's not that Gary didn't want to go out. The islands with towns in Orange Islands are all tourist attractions. It's because of the broadcast of Orange Alliance TV station that Gary was targeted by many paparazzi and was photographed at any time, which gave Gary a headache. There is no way. This is the trouble of celebrities. When Gary just won the Quartz Conference champion, every passerby he met on the road would come up to take pictures with Gary, and some asked for his autograph. Some even went to Pallet Town to see Gary. Gary! Suddenly, a voice came, which scared Gary. Gary turned around immediately and saw Ash running towards him, followed by Misty, Xiao Jian, and Pikachu. Xiao, you are so fast, Gary said in surprise. Ash and his friends were traveling by water, so they shouldn't be that fast. Hello, Gary. We came here specially. Xiao Jian and Misty greeted Gary. Come here specially? Didn't you go to Kumquat Island? Gary said in confusion. Is it necessary to change the itinerary specifically to watch a game? Of course I went. I beat Miss Sitopolis in one try to watch her game and came here from Kumquat Island. Ash said, Is that so? Not bad. You've improved from before. Gary praised. Don't praise me. I'm not a rookie. Ash immediately heard that Gary was being sarcastic. It was common for Gary to pass the gym in one go, but Ash had been an ACB trainer for almost a year, so he wouldn't be complacent about such things. Not bad. I've improved a little, but not much. Gary said. Ash didn't bother to argue with Gary at this time, and asked seriously, Gary, how confident are you in the battle with Drake tomorrow? Gary was very surprised. He didn't expect Ash to ask him this question. Ash rarely discussed such serious topics with Gary. Anyway, I won't lose. Gary put on a proud attitude. Not that he looked down on Drake, but the gap in strength between the two was still a little big. Gary, that chief trainer Drake has Dragonite. Dragonite is a very strong Pokémon, even in some abilities not inferior to the dominant bird. Xiao Jian reminded. I admit that Drake's Dragonite is a little powerful, but I can still deal with it. Gary shook his head and said indifferently. As for the quasi-god Pokémon, I have it too. You also have Dragonite? Xiao Jian was surprised. He didn't know what Pokémon Gary had. No Dragonite, but there is Banjira. Gary said, Banjira, that's the quasi-god Pokémon of Johto region. That. I have never seen it before. Can I take a look? Xiao Jian asked. Of course, no problem. I'll show you later. Gary said generously. After the Orange Islands trip, Xiao Jian will come to Pallet Town and become Professor Oak's assistant to help take care of the Pokémon in the laboratory, which will naturally take care of Gary Pokémon. So you have to befriend Xiao Jian. Let's go, I'll show you now. Gary started to act after saying that, and led everyone to the public area behind the Pokémon Center and released Banjira in front of Ash and the other two. Who? Banjira came out and saw that there was no enemy. He was confused and didn't know why Gary let him out. Banjira, let me introduce you. This is the Pokémon observer Xiao Jian, who wants to observe you. Gary said, Ooh. Banjira turned his head to one side with an unwilling attitude. Gary, this. Xiao Jian saw that Banjira seemed reluctant. It was not easy to take the initiative to observe. You can observe. My Banjira has a rebellious personality. This means that it agrees. Gary said, Is that so? I'll start. Xiao Jian immediately came to Banjira and tested Banjira's height, waist, arms, and other parts, and also tested the hardness of Banjira's armor. What a heavy sound. It seems to be harder than Rhydon's armor. Xiao Jian judged. Bow. Suddenly, a figure fell from the sky. Ooh, 190. Chief Trainer Drake, the owner of the figure, is a fat Dragonite with orange scales, and next to Dragonite stands a young man in his 20s. Hurry! Dragonite! Dragonite? Then he is. CI? What? He is young CI. Ash and the other two exclaimed. Ash, why are you surprised? You will challenge Drake later. Don't you know what he looks like? It seems that you all know me. Drake smiled, then looked at Gary, and then asked, Is this Bangira your Pokémon Dash? Yes. Gary admitted. Dragonite, it seems that you have rival in tomorrow's game. Drake said, Bawu. Dragonite's eyes have been fixed on Bangira. It has not met rival for a long time because the challenger's strength is too weak, and Dragonite has not had the opportunity to play in many games. Now seeing the strong Bangira, Dragonite is very satisfied with this rival and is looking forward to fighting in tomorrow's game. Roar! Banhila is also a fighter. It can feel that the Pokémon it has never seen before is very strong. Suddenly, the atmosphere between the two sides is a little tense. Gary and Drake also looked at each other, and both felt that tomorrow's game would be very exciting. Of course, this is just Drake's feeling. Gary doesn't think he will lose. Although Drake's Dragonite is of a high level, Gary is not afraid at all. LV65 Dragonite 3/Elite Drake's Dragonite is at the Elite level, and its potential is only at the Elite level, which is a bit lame. Look at the Dragonite of others. Both of them have the potential to be champions. Even Gary and Ellie's Dragonites have the potential to be champions. Dragonite, let's go. Drake said. He came here this time to see how strong tomorrow's rival is. When he saw Banhila, he knew that Gary was weak. Drake jumped on the back of Dragonite, and Dragonite flew into the sky and flew towards the direction of Pomelo Stadium. Roar! Banhila cursed inwardly. It's amazing to be able to fly. After Xiao Jian finished observing, Gary took back the Banhila and went back to the room to rest. After a night, the next day. On this day, Pomelo Stadium was crowded with people, and locals and tourists came to watch the Chief Trainer Challenge. Welcome everyone to watch the Chief Trainer Challenge. This time the challenger is called Gary from Pallet Town. In addition, Gary is the champion of this year's Indigo Plateau Conference. It can be seen that the game will be very exciting. The audience who bought tickets today can feast their eyes. The host introduced. Okay, the challenger introduction ends here. Next, challenger Gary will appear on stage. After speaking, Gary walked out of the passage, entered the stadium, and walked to the command area under the cheers of the audience. Okay, next, the chief trainer of Orange Alliance, Drake, who has never lost a game so far, will appear on stage. Host introduced loudly. The next moment, the whole Pomelo Stadium was filled with noise. Drake, I want to give birth to Charmeleon with you. Hook your Charmeleon. If you give birth to Bobo King Kong, Bomb King Kong, the best in the universe. Drake walked out of the passage and calmly accepted the cheers of the audience. He seemed to enjoy this feeling. Both players have come to the command area. The next step is to hand it over to the referee. Let's wait and see. Host said. The referee looked at the two of them, and after confirming that both sides were fine, he raised the flag in his hand and announced, Now let's start the 6-on-6 full-member battle between Gary and Drake. When 3 Pokémon of one of the two sides cannot fight, the battle venue must be changed. In addition, during the battle, the chief trainer cannot replace Pokémon, and the challenger can replace Pokémon freely. While the referee was introducing the rules, the field began to change. The battlefield is a rock and water field. What kind of Pokémon will both sides use to fight? The battlefield is a rock field with a Pokeball-shaped pool in the middle. The area is very small and not enough for water Pokémon to move around. Dang! The battle bell rang. This is the first Pokémon I will send out. Drake threw the Pokeball. Great! Man! A pink Ditto appeared. Pink. Is it the Ditto from Pinkin Island? Gary thought to himself. Ditto itself is light purple, and there is a pink island in the Orange Islands, also called Pinkin Island. A special fruit called pink tangerine fruit grows on the island. If Pokémon eat it for a long time, the hair on the body will turn pink. This Ditto must have eaten the pink tangerine fruit, which caused its body to turn pink. The first Pokémon that Chief Trainer Drake sent out was Ditto. Although it only has one skill, transform, its ability to transform thousands of times is enough to play with rival. The host introduced LV55 Ditto / Elite Ditto EV you go. Gary waved his hand. EV jumped from Gary's shoulder into the field. Challenger Gary sent out the first Pokemon, EV. Although EV can evolve into many forms, the strength of the unevolved EV does not seem to be very impressive. The host did not know how to introduce EV. After all, EV has not evolved. Such unevolved Pokemon is rare in public competitions, especially the Orange Alliance's Chief Trainer Challenge, which is more difficult than the finals of the Indigo Plateau Conference. It turned out to be EV. Are you worried that if you send out a too strong Pokemon, it will be transformed by my Ditto? Drake thought to himself. Ditto ultimately depends on whether the Pokemon sent by rival is strong. If the Pokemon sent by rival is weak, Ditto will not be too strong. The battle begins. Ditto, transform, Drake said. Ditto's whole body glowed with white light, and his body quickly squirmed in the light, forming the physique of EV. When the white light dissipated, an EV appeared. Boy! EV saw Ditto would not be surprised to transform, because after watching the video of the game, he knew that Ditto would transform into rival to fight. How could a fake rival be the real one? You could transform, but can you use this move? Gary was also curious about whether Ditto could use the skills that EV mastered after transforming into EV. Gary ordered, Thunderbolt. Boo! EV immediately shot out a Thunderbolt, which hit Ditto at lightning speed, and Ditto also took the Thunderbolt. You actually know Thunderbolt, then we will use Thunderbolt too. Drake counterattacked. Man. Ditto was about to use Thunderbolt, but his body could not condense electricity. Drake was puzzled, not understanding why he was at a loss. 191. Chief Trainer Challenge begins. Is it really not possible? After testing, Ditto, even if it turns into EV, cannot use skills that normal EV cannot master like Gary's EV. What's going on? Drake's Ditto can't use Thunderbolt. Host was also surprised. Logically, after Ditto transforms, he can also master the skills possessed by rival. So why can't he use Thunderbolt? Fire Blast. Gary said. EV immediately jumped onto the rock, raised his head, and leaned forward, and a large ball of flames sprayed out. Boom! Fire Blast exploded, the surrounding rock collapsed, and Ditto was also blown away. Man. Ditto was hit by 2 effective attacks in a row, and his physical strength was a little bit exhausted, because after Ditto transforms, among all the abilities, only physical strength will not change. Drake looked puzzled. He also saw that there was something wrong with Gary's EV. The moves he mastered were obviously not something that ordinary EV could master. It seemed that his Ditto could not use the skills that EV had used. Ditto, use Copycat. Drake ordered. Man. Ditto immediately used Copycat and spit up a large flame towards EV. Dig. EV immediately burrowed into the ground, dodging the fire blast, and then came out of the ground and shot a Thunderbolt, hitting Ditto. Man. Ditto wailed, fell to the ground, and his body returned to its original appearance. Ditto's physical strength was too low after all, and he was defeated after only 3 effective attacks. Ditto lost his ability to fight. EV won, said the referee. Oh, the first winner is Gary. Gary successfully took Drake's first Pokemon. It seems that your EV is a bit special, Drake said. As the chief trainer, Drake was quite perceptive and could see that Gary's EV was special. After all, his Ditto had fought many battles and never failed to use his skills. So it must be that Gary's EV was special, which caused Ditto to be unable to use those skills. Yes, my EV is not normal. It is very strong, Gary admitted. Well, hearing Gary's praise, EV raised his head proudly. Good performance. I won't be careless next time. After saying that, Drake threw the Pokeball. Great! A Jengar appeared. The second Pokemon sent by Chief Trainer Drake is Jengar. It is said that Jengar can hide in the shadow of objects and attack rival quietly. Host said, LV53 Jengar 3/Quasi-Elite. EV come back. Gary took out the Pokeball and took back the EV. Oh, Gary suddenly took back the EV? Host asked in surprise. Eevee was not hurt in the battle with Ditto just now, so he can continue to fight. It is also good to consume Jengar's physical strength. What does Gary mean? Why keep Eevee? Xiao Jian asked in confusion. I don't know. Maybe it's Gary's own strategy. Misty said, why do I feel that Gary wants to defeat Drake completely? Ash murmured, what? Complete victory? Xiao Jian thought Ash was joking. Drake is the chief trainer, and his strength is not weak. How could he be defeated completely? It's really possible. Misty agreed. Misty, do you think so too? Xiao Jian was even more confused. He didn't expect Misty to agree with Ash, because Gary participated in the Indigo Plateau Conference and defeated Rival completely. He only defeated Pokémon when fighting Ash. Misty said, oh, Ash, you are so powerful. Xiao Jian was surprised. Although he had never watched the Indigo Plateau Conference, Xiao Jian knew some of Gary's strength, which was obviously stronger than Ash. Normal. Ash was too embarrassed to accept Xiao Jian's praise. He was indeed not completely defeated, but that was because Gary did not replace the Pokémon. Otherwise, Ash would have been completely defeated. Gary took back Eevee. I don't know what Pokémon to send out to deal with Jengar. The host asked curiously. The next moment, Gary threw out the Pokeball. Go, Electivire! Gary threw out the Pokeball. Great! A tall Pokémon with thick arms and black fur patterns appeared. LV52 Electivire 3/Champion. The Pokémon sent by Gary is Electivire, which is a very strong Electro Pokémon. It is said that the electricity stored in its body can provide the electricity needed for a city for 1 year. The host introduced. At present, the transportation and information in this world are not developed enough, and not many people know about the final evolution of Electabuzz. Electivire, what Pokémon is this? Ash, who has almost zero knowledge of Pokémon, naturally didn't know it, and immediately took out the Pokédex to check Electivire. Pokédex, Electivire, the evolution of Electabuzz. The specific information is unknown. It's like this again. Ash was very troubled. He found that he didn't use the Pokédex to check Gary's Pokémon. Most of the time, it prompted that the information was unknown, and at most he knew the name of the Pokémon. Electivire, it's really tall, but my Jengar is very strong. Jengar, Nightshade. Drake ordered. Jengar's scarlet eyes shot out 2 black rays to attack Electivire, and Electivire also shot out a golden spark without hesitation. The 2 skills clashed and exploded. Boom! Thunder Punch, Gary ordered. Electivire quickly ran towards Jengar, his palms flashing with lightning. The sound of thunder and lightning was like 1,000 birds singing together. Jengar used Shadow Punch to stop Electivire, but all his fists were smashed by Electivire's Thunder Punch. Bang! Electivire approached Jengar and sent Jengar flying with a Thunder Punch. Gung Jie! Jengar cried out in pain, retreating several meters before stopping. Looking at Electivire with a resentful look, and dark energy emerged from his body. Use spells. Drake saw that Electivire was brave and estimated that his physical strength of 3.7 was also very high, so it was obviously not wise to force an attack. The dark energy around Jengar suddenly dissipated and turned into a spell that fell on Electivire. At the same time, Jengar also used Black Eyes to prevent Electivire from being taken back, but Jengar also paid a huge price. Ghost Pokemon need to use half of their maximum physical strength to use spells. Since that's the case, we have to make a quick decision. Gary ordered. Electivire released the power of Discharge. Wow! Electivire used Discharge, and a violent electric current in his body was quickly released. A series of violent arcs swept across the entire venue, bathing the cold field in lightning. Gungar! Jengar couldn't dodge at all. His body was bathed in thunder and was directly numbed by the electricity. He fell to the ground, his eyes spinning in circles. 192. Gariv's Drake 1. Jengar loses his ability to fight. Electivire wins, said the referee. Gary originally planned to win, but Drake insisted on playing dirty tricks, so there was no need to let Electivire's stored power play to its full potential. Great, Gary is amazing. he defeated the 2 Pokémon of the Chief Trainer Drake in a row. The young are formidable. Host was not optimistic about Gary at first, but as Gary defeated Drake's 2 Pokémon in a row, his opinion changed drastically. I wonder who Drake will send as his 3rd Pokémon. Host asked curiously. What a powerful Thunder Shock. Drake commented, and then threw a Pokeball. But it is destined to lose. It's your turn. Great. A huge body appeared on the field. It was an Onix. This Onix was very large, exceeding the Onix of the same level, and the tackle power should be very strong. LV50 Onix, 3/Elite, Drake sent out Onix. Ground-type Onix is immune to electric skills. Electivire is in danger. Host exclaimed. Electivire, perform a quick attack and attack Onix with low kick. 0-2, Gary ordered. Wow! Electivire knew that he was under a spell, and it would be disadvantageous to continue to waste time. Lightning flashed under his feet and rushed out quickly, leaving 2 electric lines on the ground. Bang! Onix was heavy and could not keep up with Electivire's speed. Electivire rushed to Onix and kicked Onix's hard body, but low kick did not repel Onix because it was too big and low kick was ineffective. Onix, tie up Electivire. Drake ordered hurriedly. Onix wrapped its body around him and then quickly tightened it to tie up Electivire. Oh no, Electivire has been caught by Onix. It's all over now, Host exclaimed. Gary was very calm. He deliberately let Electivire get close to Onix. Although Onix was large in size, its attack mode was single. If he wanted to cause effective damage to Rival, he had to tie Rival up and slam him hard to the ground. This would cause huge damage. Electivire, use Ion Deluge. Gary ordered. Wow! Electivire roared, and ions burst out from its body, converting the energy emitted by Onix into electrical energy. The electrical energy was quickly absorbed by Electivire, and its whole body was shining with golden lightning. Oh no! Throw Electivire out quickly. Drake shouted hurriedly. Onix threw Electivire out without any hesitation. Bang! Electivire made a strong contact with the ground. Wow! Electivire cried out in pain, and at the same time, his forehead suddenly turned black, and the spell was activated, consuming another 10 parts of Electivire's physical strength. Quick attack. Rush to Onix. Use Dynamic Punch. Gary ordered. Hurry up and use Dig. Drake was also scared when he saw Electivire with lightning all over his body, so he let Onix temporarily avoid the sharp edge. Onix was about to drill a hole, but Electivire turned into a lightning, quickly came to Onix, grabbed Onix's tail directly, pulled Onix out of the ground, and smashed it to the ground, then quickly rushed to Onix's head and hit Onix's head with a Dynamic Punch. Roar! Onix wailed and fell to the ground. Onix loses the ability to fight. Electivire wins. The referee announced at this moment. Gary defeated 3 Pokémon of Drake in a row. Now, change the battle venue. Wow! After saying that, Electivire showed a look of pain on his face and fainted directly. Oh, the spell on Electivire was activated again, and it lost the ability to fight. Host was surprised. This was the first time he had seen such a situation. Thank you for your hard work. Take a good rest. Gary took back Electivire, originally thinking of defeating 2 Pokémon of Drake directly, so that he could take Electivire back. Although Electivire also defeated 2 Pokémon of Drake, it still didn't catch up in time. The referee couldn't make a judgment, so he regarded Gary's Electivire as defeated, let the 2 rest in the command area, and began to change the court. In the audience, why did Onix tie up Electivire? Why did he throw Electivire out? Ash asked, puzzled. Ash had fought with Onix before, and knew that Onix Wrap was very powerful. If he could bind Rival, the fight would be over. I don't know. Xiao Jian didn't know what was going on. Although Xiao Jian was a Pokemon observer, his knowledge was not comprehensive. Misty, do you know? Ash asked. I don't know either. Misty was also a half-baked person. She didn't even know all the knowledge about water Pokemon, let alone other attribute Pokemon. Ash was very depressed now. Since Xiao Gang left, there was no one to answer Ash's questions. 3 minutes later, the battlefield was changed. The second half of the battle will be in the grass. In the first half, Gary performed very well and defeated all 3 Pokemon of the Chief Trainer Drake, while he only defeated 1 Pokemon. The host said, "The second half of the game will begin soon." I wonder if Gary can maintain the contest condition of the first half. The grass battlefield is quite normal, similar to ordinary battlefields, and is more suitable for grass-type Pokémon to fight here. "Please enter the field, both players," said the referee. Hearing this, Gary and Kongsai entered the command area again. "The second half of the game will begin. Please ask the chief trainer Drake to release the Pokémon first," said the referee. "Venusaur, it's your turn." Drake threw the Pokeball. Great! A huge bullfrog-like creature appeared. Venusaur looked like a bullfrog with a flowering palm tree on its back. In the second half of the game, the first Pokémon that Drake sent out was Venusaur. I wonder what kind of Pokémon Gary will send out to deal with it. The host introduced LV54 Venusaur 3/Elite. Drake's strength is not bad. The potential of the Pokémon in his hand is not low. The worst ones are all quasi-elite, and the normal ones are all elite potential. This is your first battle. Go ahead. Gary smiled confidently and threw the Pokeball. Great! A brilliant flame exploded in the air, and the eyes of the people in the entire Citrus Stadium were attracted by the brilliant flame. A cry resounded throughout the Citrus Sports City, and everyone present came back to their senses. Oh my god, that's Moltres. Gary actually sent out the legendary Pokémon Moltres. Unbelievable. The host was shocked. 193. Gary's Drake 2. Oh my god, Moltres. Who is this Gary? He actually possessed Moltres. Shunko. He actually subdued Moltres. The audience was stunned. As people from the Orange Islands, the 3 sacred birds were their totems, and Gary actually subdued their totems. How could they not be surprised? Moltres. Drake was also very surprised. He didn't expect Gary to possess Moltres. Although Gary had used Moltres and Articuno on Shamudi Island, not many people saw it at the time, and Gary also asked those people to keep it secret. Only the top leaders of the Orange Islands knew about this, and ordinary people didn't know about it. Although they were surprised, the game had to continue. Drake understood that the Gary in front of him was not normal and was not comparable to the previous challengers. Venusaur used the sunlight technique. Drake ordered, because the Orange Islands have a tropical climate, sunny days are considered sunny days, and the sunlight technique skill can be used smoothly. Okay. The flower crown on Venusaur's back emits white light, and a white beam of light shoots straight into the sky. Moltres will not dodge when facing the solar power. It opens its beak and spurts out hot flames. The high-temperature flames instantly suppress the solar power and beat it back step by step. Boom! Unfortunately, the flames did not completely suppress the solar power and exploded around Venusaur, but it can be seen that Moltres' flames can suppress Venusaur. Use Razor Leaf, Drake ordered, and Venusaur immediately launched the Razor Leaf, but Moltres flapped his fire wings and hot winds blew down. The flying leaves were covered by the heat wave and turned into ashes in an instant. Venusaur wailed, and it was also hit by the heat wave and suffered heavy damage. Moltres not only restrains Venusaur in attribute, but can also flying. The bulky Venusaur is like a tank, very strong on land, but facing air attacks, it is a sitting duck. Fire Blast. Gary continued to attack. Moltres spit up with a big flame, and Venusaur immediately used the solar beam to counterattack. Boom! The impact of the explosion overturned the grass on the field, and a strong wind blew Venusaur's body. If Venusaur's body was not too heavy, he might have been whirlwind out. Venusaur used Leaf Storm. Drake also tried his best and directly used Venusaur's strongest skill. Leaf Storm is a grass-type skill with a power of up to 130, but it has side effects. After using it, the Pokémon's own special attack will be reduced by 2 levels. The more times it is used, the lower the power. Barna. Venusaur rolled Gust, and a green twister rushed straight into the sky, attacking Moltres. Gary would not let Moltres avoid it, and ordered, "Take the challenge head-on. Use Overheat." Overheat is the same as Leaf Storm, with the same power of 130, and even the side effects are the same. Moltres ejected a red beam, with sparks on the surface of the beam. The two skills collided in the air and stalemated for a few seconds. The red beam penetrated the leaf storm and exploded in front of Venusaur. Boom! The hot explosion spread, knocking Venusaur to the ground. Venusaur could not bear the continuous critical hits of the explosion, and his eyes turned in circles. Venusaur lost the ability to fight. Moltres won, the referee announced. Venusaur was defeated. As expected of a legendary Pokémon, Moltres' fire is too fierce. Host exclaimed, "What? This Gary is too strong." He completely suppressed Drake. Yeah, if it wasn't for Jengar's spell, Drake couldn't even beat one of Gary's Pokémon. Why wasn't I as strong as Gary in the first place? A trainer who can capture legendary Pokémon is so terrifying. I really look forward to the day when Gary steps onto the world stage. Moltres' strong performance instantly attracted the attention of the audience. At the beginning, the audience was still optimistic about Drake. They didn't expect Gary to be so brave and defeat Drake's 4 Pokémon in a row. If it weren't for the spell, he wouldn't have lost any Pokémon. Drake now has only 2 Pokémon left. One is Dragonite, and the other one is unknown. It's hard to turn the tables. Xiao Jian analyzed. Gary's strength has become stronger again. Ash felt the most clearly. He found that Gary was much stronger than during the Indigo Plateau Conference. Ash, you should worry about your battle with Drake later. Drake is not weak. Misty reminded. I know. I have decided on the lineup for the challenge. Now let me see how strong Drake's Dragonite is. Ash said, Drake is in danger. I don't know who will be sent to play the 5th Pokémon. After saying this, he threw Pokeballs repeatedly. Please. Great. A huge Gyarados appeared. This Gyarados still has the Intimidate ability, which reduces Moltres' physical attack. LV53 Gyarados 3/Quasi-Elite Moltres come back. Gary has to defeat Drake completely, and each Pokémon only needs to fight once. Especially Electivire has to defeat Drake's 2 Pokémon, which makes Gary have no chance to play 1 Pokémon. Gary has taken back his Pokémon again. It seems that every time Drake sends a new Pokémon, Gary will replace it. Does Gary want to completely defeat Drake? The host suspected. This host still has some brains. He can see what Gary is thinking. Unfortunately, a complete victory is impossible. After all, Electivire has been defeated. Blastoise, it's your turn. Gary threw the Pokeball. Great. Crack. Gary's trump card, Pokemon Blastoise, appeared. What? Gary sent Blastoise, the host exclaimed. Liao Xiao Xiao. Before, Gary sent out Pokemon with some rules. Even if he didn't send out restrained Pokemon, he wouldn't send out Pokemon that could counter it. How can a water type fight a water type? Hey, why is Gary the same as Ash? Misty said in surprise. What do you mean by the same as me? Ash asked puzzled. Because Ash, you like to mess around, and you always send people with opposite attributes or the same attributes to fight, just to compete with the opponent. Misty said, Ash M. Ash was speechless. He was indeed like this. On the battlefield, the battle between the two sides began. Since they are both water Pokemon, my Gyarados will not lose. Gyarados, use Hydro Pump. Drake ordered. Gyarados spit up Hydro Pump towards Blastoise. Gary didn't know where Drake got the courage to let Gyarados use special attack skills to attack. We also use Hydro Pump. 194. Gary's Drake 3 Kami. Blastoise's barrel fired 2 Hydro Pumps, instantly dispersing Gyarados' Hydro Pumps and hitting Gyarados. Amazing. Blastoise's Hydro Pump easily defeated Gyarados' Hydro Pump. Host explained in shock. Gyarados, use Ice Fang. Drake saw that the special attack could not win, so he could only use physical attack. Roar! Gyarados quickly rushed towards Blastoise, circled around Blastoise, and the ice fangs in his mouth kept biting Blastoise. Use Flash Cannon after Rapid Spin. Gary ordered. Blastoise used Rapid Spin to deflect Ice Fang, and the barrel shot out Flash Cannon, which collided with Gyarados and forced him back. Roar! Gyarados was forced to retreat and used Aqua Tail to whip Blastoise, and Blastoise also used Water Stream Break to knock Aqua Tail away. What a strong Blastoise. He is even as strong as Gyarados. Host exclaimed. Everyone knows that Gyarados' physical attack is very high, and Blastoise is not inferior to Gyarados in strength. Gary's Blastoise is simply terrifyingly strong. Skull Bash. Gary ordered. Blastoise aimed at Gyarados' head, and his body was launched like a cannonball normal, pointing directly at Gyarados' head. Use Crunch. Drake had no intention of dodging. Gyarados showed his sharp fangs and bit towards Blastoise. With a bang, Gyarados' Crunch did not stop Blastoise and was knocked down by Blastoise. Gyarados stood up and looked at Blastoise with some fear. The blow just now really hurt him. After all, Blastoise is very tough, and high defense can also be used as a means of attack. Gyarados used Waterfall. Drake said, in terms of tackle, Gyarados may not lose to Blastoise. The reason why he didn't use tackle skills just now was because Blastoise's movements were too fast and Gyarados didn't have time to use them. Roar! Water flowed from the side of Gyarados, allowing him to parade on the ground and quickly rushed towards Blastoise. After Shell Smash, use Dynamic Punch. Gary ordered. Kami, the transparent red crystal performance energy covered Blastoise's whole body. As the energy broke, both defenses were reduced by 1 level, and the speed and attack capabilities were all increased by 2 levels. Then, Blastoise rushed towards Gyarados and fired a Dynamic Punch, colliding with Gyarados' head. Bang! With a muffled sound, Gyarados' body stopped suddenly, and then quickly retreated several meters. Gyarados' Acme was knocked out by Blastoise's punch. The audience's eyes widened. Gyarados was very big, 4 times bigger than Blastoise, so the scene of Blastoise knocking Gyarados out with 1 punch was particularly shocking. DF. Gyarados was hit by this dynamic punch, and his head was a little dizzy. He was not in a mess, but he was a little dizzy, and Gary would not miss this rare opportunity. Deal with Gyarados' Hydro Cannon. Gary ordered. Kami. Blastoise bent his legs, aimed the barrel at the target, and a majestic hydro pump gushed out. The huge hydro pump, like a beam of light, hit Gyarados. Bang! Gyarados was directly blown out of the field and fell to the ground, his eyes spinning in circles, and he fainted. Gyarados loses his ability to fight. Blastoise wins, said the referee. It's Hydro Cannon, a water-type ultimate skill, too strong. Host exclaimed in the audience. Ash heard host's words and wondered, what is the water-type ultimate skill? It's the strongest skill of the water type, and the power of Hydro Cannon is comparable to the destruction of Death Ray. Misty still knew this and gave an answer. And this skill can only be learned. Pokémon can't awaken it by itself. Oh, then can my Pokémon learn it too? Ash asked. Seeing Gary Blastoise's Hydro Cannon, Ash was also very excited. Since Blastoise can learn it, then his Squirtle must be able to learn it. Your Pokémon can't learn it. Misty said. Why? Gary's Blastoise can learn it. Why can't my Squirtle? Ash frowned. Because learning Hydro Cannon requires Squirtle to evolve to the final form of Blastoise, and your Squirtle doesn't want to evolve. How can you learn it? Misty said. What? There is such a thing. Ash was immediately embarrassed. The Pokémon in his hands were all very strong, but there was a fatal flaw. That is, they refused to evolve. Ash has captured all the 3 starters in the Kanto region, but only Charmander evolved to the final form, and Bulbasaur and Squirtle did not evolve. Ash's Bulbasaur is unwilling to evolve, and he also carries Everstone, so don't count on it in this life. Squirtle has some hope. Misty, do you think Squirtle will be willing to evolve? Ash asked. Don't think about it. If your Squirtle wanted to evolve, it would have evolved long ago, and even mastered Hydro Pump, which is a very high-level Pokémon that can be mastered by song. Xiao Dao. What a headache. Ash looked distressed. He also wanted to master Hydro Cannon, but he had no chance. You don't have to worry too much. If you can't learn the ultimate water skills, you can let Charizard learn the ultimate water skills. Xiao Jian said. What? There are also ultimate fire skills? What are they called? Ash suddenly became curious. The ultimate fire skill. I remember it's called Blast Burn. Xiao Jian recalled. Oh, Xiao Jian, can you teach my Charizard? Ash asked hurriedly. I can't teach this. Only the skill master can teach it. Xiao Jian shook his head. Then who should I find to learn from? Ash said distressedly. After the game is over, you can ask Gary. Let's watch the game carefully. It's about to end. Misty said. That's right. Ash suddenly realized why he had forgotten Mao. Gary's Blastoise could learn Hydro Cannon, so he must know where the skill master is. At this time, Drake only had the last Pokémon left. Drake has lost 5 Pokémon in a row, and now there's only 1 Pokémon left. I don't need to introduce this Pokémon in detail. I believe everyone knows it. Let's see if Drake can make a comeback with the last Pokémon. Host explained. Drake took back the defeated Gyarados and looked at the pendant in front of his chest. There was a Pokeball decorated on the pendant. This was the Pokeball with Dragonite. Drake usually wore it as a pendant. Drake took off the Pokeball on the pendant and said, "Okay, this rival is very strong. You will definitely be satisfied. Go, Dragonite." Drake threw the Pokeball. Great. Bawu. Drake's strongest trump card, Dragonite, appeared. 195. Gary's Drake 4. Drake sent out his trump card, Pokemon Dragonite. I wonder if Gary will choose to replace Pokemon again. Host asked curiously. Previously, Pokemon were replaced because of confidence, but Drake's Dragonite is very strong. Because Dragonite is a quasi-god Pokemon that matures late, Dragonair has to reach level 55 to evolve into Dragonite. Once evolved, it has the strength of a quasi-elite. After a few years of training, it is easy to reach the elite level. Blastoise come back and rest. Gary took Blastoise back as the host guest. Gary took back Blastoise. I wonder what Pokemon he will send to deal with Dragonite. Host was very curious about what Pokemon Gary would send to deal with Dragonite. After all, the Pokemon Gary sent out so far are all very good, even legendary Pokemon. Even the audience is looking forward to it. In the entire audience, only Ash and the other 2 knew that Gary would send Banjira to deal with Dragonite. It's your turn. Rival is not weak this time. Do your best. Gary threw the Pokeball. Great. A ball of white light landed on the field. The light dissipated, and a huge brown-green body covered with armor appeared on the field. Roar! Banheela roared and looked at Dragonite defiantly. Oh my god! The Pokemon sent by Gary turned out to be Johto Region, Banheela, who is known as a tyrant. This Pokemon has the power to collapse a mountain. Host exclaimed. Drake was very calm. He had seen him in the public area at the Pokemon Center yesterday. Dragonite uses Water Gun. Drake was also a little anxious. Being defeated was fine, but he couldn't accept such a terrible defeat. After all, he was the chief trainer of the Southern Cross, and that was the face of the Orange Alliance. Dragonite sprayed Water Gun at Banheela. Sandstorm defense. Gary said, Ban. Sandstorm erupted around Banheela, and Sandstorm formed a sand shield to block the Water Gun. Dragonite's sad face, Ovo. Dragonite was shocked. He didn't expect his Water Gun to be blocked in this way. Banheela activated his own ability, and in an instant, the entire venue was covered with Sandstorm. Dragonite used Dragon Pulse. Drake ordered. Dragonite immediately spit up, and the colorful dragon-shaped wave attacked. Banheela fired Dark Pulse in reverse. Boom! The skills of both sides exploded after the intersection, and a cloud of smoke erupted. Before the smoke was blown away by the sandstorm, pieces of rock rushed out of the smoke, indiscriminately falling on the direction where Dragonite was. Dragonite used Thunder Punch, smashing all the rocks falling towards him. Banheela took advantage of the opportunity when Dragonite was about to rock smash and rushed towards Dragonite with big strides, his fist emitting white light, and he was about to use Dynamic Punch to attack Dragonite. Take off! Drake ordered immediately. Hearing the sound, Dragonite quickly flew into the air, making it impossible for Banheela to get close to him. Drake's Dragonite is a little special. It likes to fight long-range battles and has weak close combat ability, which completely wastes Dragonite's physical attack advantage. Dragonite's special attack species strength is 100, which is not low, but its physical attack species strength is 134, obviously a physical attacker. Drake let his Dragonite learn so many special attack skills, which is really a waste of time. After all, Drake has no system, and learning skills requires a lot of time. Moreover, Dragonite has been learning special attack skills for a long time, and it will be very uncomfortable to switch to physical attack skills in the future. Of course, There's another possibility. That is, Drake's Dragonite likes to use special attack moves. Then there is nothing to do. After all, normal is excellent trainers will obey the Pokemon's own wishes. Stone Edge. Gary ordered. Banhila condensed a stone blade and shot it towards soaring in the sky. Dragonite also used Thunderbolt to smash the stone blade. But Thunderbolt's attack trajectory was too single and the attack was also concentrated, unlike Stone Edge, which was scattered. Several stone blades broke through Thunderbolt's blockage and hit Dragonite. Dragonite with Flying type was restrained by Rock type moves, but Drake's Dragonite was very patient and took all the damage and was not smacked down. Very good. Continue to chase with Stone Edge. Gary said. Banhila kept condensing stone blades and shooting them at soaring in the sky, chasing Dragonite. Dragonite also used agility to speed up his speed to avoid the stone blades. Although Dragonite pulled away from the pursuit of the stone blades with his speed, Dragonite would also suffer the greatest loss of physical strength if he continued to consume it like this. Dragonite's situation is not good. Banhila has been chasing and beating him. How should Drake deal with it? Host explained. Gary was not panicked at all. Anyway, on the ground, there was no shortage of rock energy. He could use rock skills as he pleased. He just needed to give Dragonite the opportunity to use skills that would improve his ability. Besides, it was sandstorm weather now. Even if the damage was very low, there would still be damage. A protracted war would not be good for Dragonite. Dragonite did not fail to fight back, but they used special attack skills. These skills were easily suppressed in front of Bangila's Stone Edge. Even if the explosive impact generated by the skills was defended by the Sand Shield, it could not affect Banhila at all. It seems that long-range attacks are useless. Drake thought to himself. He also saw that Dragonite's special attack skills were useless against Banhila. If he continued to consume it, he would not make any progress. Dragonite used Dragon Rush. Drake ordered. Dragonite burst out dragon energy, wrapped Dragonite's body, formed into an energy dragon in the form of a western dragon, leaned down and rushed down. All the flying stone blades that touched the energy dragon were instantly turned into stone powder. Banhila, use iron defense to catch Dragonite. Gary ordered. Roar! Bangila's hard armor flashed a metallic luster, and he opened his arms to hug Dragonite. Dragonite saw that Banhila wanted to take his attack, so he charged harder, vowing to kill Banhila instantly. Bang! Banhila caught Dragonite, and his body retreated violently, leaving a 10-meter-long money pit on the grass, and Bangila's hands tightly grasped Dragonite's arms. The two song Pokémons competed in strength. Dal. PBUS. The two Pokémons competed in strength, but it was obvious that Banhila was stronger than Dragonite and pushed Dragonite back little by little. Dragonite, use water gun. Drake ordered. Dragonite sprayed water gun at Bangila's face, but the water gun did not cause any damage to Banhila. In the sandstorm weather, the Rock-type's special defense ability increased by 1.5 times. The water gun, a water-type skill with only 40 power, could not cause any damage to Banhila. As fawn, Gary suddenly ordered. As soon as he finished speaking, the water gun sprayed by Dragonite was instantly frozen. 196, Orange Alliance Challenge succeeded ABUS. Dragonite was startled and immediately stopped the water gun. He saw that the sharp fangs on the upper and lower jaws of Banhila were covered with layers of ice energy and bit Dragonite. Ouch! Dragonite had no way to avoid it. Banhila bit Dragonite's shoulder. The sharp fangs bit through Dragonite's skin, and the deadly cold air invaded Dragonite's body, instantly freezing Dragonite's shoulder. Oh no! Dragonite was hit by Bangila's Ice Fawn. Ice skills are very restraining to dragon Pokémon. The host explained. As the host explained, Dragonite suddenly exerted force to distance himself from Banhila, but half of Dragonite's body was frozen. This Ice Fawn almost took Dragonite's life. Dragonite is dying. Use Earthquake. Gary ordered. Roar! Banhila raised his foot and stomped on the ground, causing a 5-3-3 earthquake. Dragonite wanted to fly to the sky, but half of his body was frozen and he couldn't fly for a while. Earthquake waves spread throughout the field. ABUS, Dragonite wailed, leaned forward, and finally fell to the ground, losing consciousness. Dragonite has lost the ability to fight, the referee announced. Drake's 6 Pokémon were all defeated, and the winner is Gary. The winner has been decided. Gary succeeded in the challenge. Let us congratulate him and thank the 2 trainers for bringing us a wonderful game. After the words fell, the audience burst into enthusiastic applause. Vanhila, come back and rest. Gary was also very satisfied with the performance of his Pokémon. Although he did not completely defeat Drake, it was almost the same as a complete victory. The Orange Alliance Challenge fell Veilstone, and then he personally presented Gary with the trophy many times. Afterwards, after the Pokémon was healed at the Pokémon Center, he came to the Victor's Palace and released the 5 participating Pokémon to take pictures. As for Articuno, he was not released. After all, he did not play, and Gary did not want to be too high profile. After leaving a group photo and footprints at the Victor's Palace, the system also prompted that the task was completed. Which Pokémon should I give the Ability Enhancement Stone to? Gary looked at the Ability Enhancement Stone in the space backpack. It was a triangular black stone with a strange pattern on it. Gary didn't know what this pattern meant, but he had never seen it before. Gary is now considering who to give the Ability Enhancement Stone to. Gary's current Pokémon. The most suitable Pokémon for using ability fossils are only Blastoise and Mantis Claw. Because Blastoise's the ability is Torrent, which is the same as Raging Fire. The effect after upgrading can be referred to Infernape, which Ash will capture in the future. Once this ability is activated, it is very powerful. Sizer's ability is Technical Expert. If this ability is enhanced, Sizer's small skills will be enhanced to a stronger level. And can the ability be continuously improved? For example, the Sunshine ability. Once Groudon's Sunshine ability is activated, it can affect the climate of 1 or even 2 regions, while the Sunshine ability of ordinary Pokémon can only affect the area of the stadium. The limit is 2 or 3 football fields at most. If the Pokémon with Sunshine ability is continuously given the Ability Enhancement Stone, can the Sunshine ability be comparable to Groudon's Sunshine ability? Let's try it on Blastoise first. Gary decided to try Blastoise first. Although the Hydro Burn ability is not the strongest among all the abilities, Blastoise is Gary's Earl Dervish Pokémon. The potential has reached the legendary level. If you go astray, you can only go astray. Gary. Just as Gary was about to use the Ability Enhancement Stone on Blastoise, a familiar voice came from behind. It's you. Gary turned around and saw Ash and the other 3. Gary, congratulations on your successful challenge. The game was very exciting. Misty and Xiao congratulated. Gary, where did you learn the Hydro Cannon that Blastoise used in the game? Ash asked. Why? Do you want to learn it? Gary said, yes, my Charizard can learn Blast Burn. You should know a skill master who can teach it. Ash said, I know it, but what's the point of telling you? You definitely won't learn it. Gary waved his hand. Why do you say that? Ash asked in confusion. Tell me, I will definitely learn it. It costs money, are you sure? Gary said, it costs money? Ash froze. This is nonsense. Of course it costs money to teach skills. Gyms in various places also teach skills, but they all charge fees. The more precious the skills, the higher the fees. Don't you even know this? Gary said with a headache. Really? It was the first time Ash heard of this. Of course, my father used to teach water skills, and the fees were not low. Misty said. Ash thought back to the game just now, especially the scene where Blastoise used Hydro Cannon, and was still very excited. So he made up his mind and asked, how much does it cost to learn Blast Burn? The price is the same, 1 million. Gary said, what? 1 million? Ash was shocked. He had never seen how much 1 million was in his life. And there is no guarantee of 100% teaching. I will only teach you for 1 month. If you can't learn it within 1 month, you will be persuaded to quit and the money will not be returned. Gary said, what? Ash really planned to spend money, but the cost of 1 million was too high, and the key was that there was no guarantee that he could learn it. For Ash, who was not very experienced in the world, it was like robbing. The rules for teaching skills have always been like this. This is just like go to school. You're given the opportunity to go to school. You can't blame anyone for learning. Gary said, yes, skill teaching is like this. If the Pokemon is not good at understanding, the skill teaching master can't do anything. Misty agreed with Gary because when she was a child, she saw many trainers asking their fathers to return the money because their Pokemon could not learn skills. 3.8. Can you tell me where it is? Ash said. It is near the edge of the second island of Seviai Islands. 3 witches are responsible for teaching the ultimate skills. Gary said, the second island of Seviai Islands, the edge of the cape. Ash thought about it and suddenly said in surprise, Gary, you said before that you were going to Seviai Islands. Is it just to learn the ultimate skills? It's almost the same. I learned it on the way. Anyway, the skill master I know who can teach is there. If you want to go, just prepare the money. Gary said, come on, be Sai in a week. I'm leaving first. Gary didn't stay for long. He still had to think about the ability enhancement stone, so he didn't have time to coach Ash here. Besides, Ash was about to challenge Drake and had no time to go to Seviai Islands. 197. Enhanced Riptide ability leaving the Victory Palace. Gary rented a closed venue. Because he used molters in the match with Drake, many tourists and locals wanted to take pictures with Gary's molters. Gary certainly couldn't let molters out to take pictures with people, so he could only rent a venue to avoid being disturbed by passersby. Blastoise come out. Gary released Blastoise. Kami, Blastoise came out of the Pokeball and saw that there was no Pokemon around, not even the shadow of his partner. He immediately understood something and smiled evilly. Don't laugh. It does help you become stronger, but I don't know how strong it can become. I may have to test it later. Gary said, Kami. Blastoise nodded frantically. Come on, I can't wait. Gary shook his head slightly, walked to Blastoise, put his hand on Blastoise's shell, and used the ability strengthening stone. Ding! Ability strengthening successfully. Hearing the system's prompt, Gary immediately checked Blastoise's attribute. Pokemon, Blastoise 3 attribute. Water level, LV59 potential. Legend ability, EX Torrent. When the physical strength is reduced to 0 to 1/3, the power of water-type moves will increase by 2 times, and the attack, special attack, defense, special defense, and speed abilities will all increase by 2 levels. Skills, Tackle, Tail Whip, Water Gun, Shell Shrinking, Rapid Spin, Water Pulse Protect, Rain Dance, Shell Smash, Flash Cannon, Hydro Pump, Skull Bash, Wave Rush. Professor Level, Water Stream Rupture, Mega Kick, Signal Beam, Dynamic Punch, Dig, Hydro Cannon, Waterfall, Rest, Destruction Death Beam. Intimacy, 255, Maximum 255. Carrying items, Top Grade Mystic Water, My Turtle. All abilities are increased by 2 levels. Gary was shocked. This increase is really terrifying. If Blastoise triggers the ability in the battle, and then cooperates with Shell Smash, the attack, special attack, and speed will be increased by 4 levels. This move will not directly crush rival. Kami, Blastoise scratched his head in confusion. It didn't feel anything. Why was Gary laughing there and laughing so evilly? I help you strengthen your ability, so you don't feel anything. Now I'm going to test your ability. You have to bear it. Gary said, Kami. Blastoise was confused. It knew that its ability was Torrent. In the previous training, Gary had tested its ability and deliberately injured Blastoise to trigger the Torrent ability. Believe me, you will be very surprised when the ability is triggered this time, Gary said, throwing a Pokeball and releasing Electivire. Blastoise sad face. Blastoise got a headache when he saw Electivire, but since Gary had said so, he could only endure the Thunder Shock training later. Wow, Electivire was confused, not knowing why Gary released him. Although he had been treated, the electricity in his body had not yet recovered. He thought Gary released him and had electricity for him to absorb. Electivire, I'll let you attack Blastoise later, and we'll test Blastoise's ability. Gary said, Wow. Electivire nodded happily, and he was happy to do this kind of work. Blastoise felt that this old guy Electivire was rebellious, relying on the attribute to restrain himself, and always jumped in front of him. Okay, Blastoise, you use Shell Smash first. Gary said, Blastoise, Kami, QEQ. If you use Shell Smash and get attacked later, the injury will be more serious. I believe you. With your defensive ability, even if you use Shell Smash, you will have no problem resisting Electivire's Thunder Shock. Gary said, after all, to trigger the Ripple ability, Blastoise's physical strength needs to be pushed to the extreme. Kami, Blastoise yelled at Electivire, asking him to be gentler later, and then use Shell Smash, reducing both defenses by 1 level. Electivire, you can use Thunder now. Gary said. Blastoise was sweating, using Thunder right away, really not treating me as a Water-type Pokémon. Wow! Electivire was very happy, and the small horns on his head emitted electricity, shooting out a thick lightning, which came in front of Blastoise in an instant. Kami! Blastoise endured the severe pain caused by thunder. When the thunder disappeared, Blastoise was electrocuted and white smoke came out of his body, but the ability was still not triggered. It can be seen that Blastoise's defense ability is still very strong. Even if it is a restrained electric skill, he can still resist a few hits. Blastoise, can you take another thunder? Gary asked. Kami, Blastoise nodded heavily, indicating that he could still resist. Electivire continue. As soon as he finished speaking, Electivire released Thunder again and hit Blastoise again. This time, Blastoise's physical strength dropped sharply. After resisting Thunder, more white smoke came out of his body, but he still did not fall down. Blastoise, is the ability triggered? Gary asked. Kami, Blastoise shook his head, indicating that it was still a little short. Electivire saw that Blastoise's physical strength had not been pushed to the limit by himself, and he was a little embarrassed. How about changing your skills? Gary felt that if Blastoise could withstand another thunder, he might lose his ability to fight. His Electivire was not weak, and it had the potential to be a champion. Kami, Blastoise shook his head and refused. He felt that there was a 993 force in his body that was about to burst out, and it was just a little bit short. Okay, Electivire, continue to use Thunder, but the power can be lighter. Gary said, wow. Electivire used Thunder again, and a thick lightning descended and landed on Blastoise. Kami! Blastoise cried out in pain and was electrocuted to his knees. Gary, Electivire, didn't I tell you to be gentle? Gary said, wow. Electivire shook his head frantically. He had just reduced the power. It had nothing to do with him. Gary did not continue to blame Electivire. He was ready to check Blastoise's condition. However, in the next second, Blastoise's eyes suddenly opened, and a rapid burst of water energy burst out from his body, surrounding Blastoise's whole body. Wow! Electivire was shocked. He did not defeat Blastoise with his thunder. Moreover, Blastoise's change made Electivire confused. Why did he look like he was resurrected with full blood? Kami. Blastoise felt full of power at this moment. This feeling had never been experienced before. All of this was brought to him by Gary. Electivire, be defensive, Gary said. Wow. Electivire was confused. Blastoise, 198, X-Fierce and X-Anwow. Electivire didn't struggle too much, crossing his arms in front of himself. Anyway, he was not restrained by water skills, so it was okay for him to block Blastoise's attack. Blastoise, use Hydro Pump, Gary ordered. Kami, Blastoise was surrounded by water energy, and the barrel quickly ejected Hydro Pump. The spit-up Hydro Pump was not a Hydro Pump at all, but a water beam formed by 2 condensed water energies. Bang! Electivire was hit, and his body quickly retreated. With a bang, Electivire hit the wall and stopped. Wow! Electivire gasped for air. It had tasted Blastoise's Hydro Pump before, but this time the Hydro Pump was too powerful, and it directly injured Electivire. This was when Electivire was on guard. If it was hit again, Electivire felt that it might not be able to withstand it. Electivire uses the Destruction Ray. Blastoise uses the Hydro Cannon, and see how it fights against each other. Gary ordered. Kami. Wow. The 2 Pokémon began to gather energy. Electivire fired the Destruction Ray, and Blastoise's cannon directly fired 2 thick blue beams. The 2 skills met in the air, and the Hydro Cannon instantly defeated the Destruction Ray and hit Electivire. Boom! A white mushroom cloud unique to the explosion of water skills rose up. When the smoke dispersed, Electivire's entire body was embedded in a large pit in the wall, and his eyes were spinning in circles. Oh my god, so scary. Gary was also surprised. After Blastoise's Torn ability was triggered, it looked even more powerful than Ash's Infernape. It was certain that the Infernape that Ash would capture in the future would have its ability enhanced. Gary was curious as to why the Infernape's ability was enhanced. Was it innate? Or was it something he ate that caused a change? Thank you for your hard work. After testing Blastoise's EX Torn ability, Gary took back the 2 Pokémon, left the venue, and hurried to the Pokémon Center to heal the 2 Song Pokémon. After handing the 2 Pokémon to Joy, Gary returned to the indoor training ground. There are 2 ability enhancement stones left. Who should I give them to? Gary was having a headache about which 2 Pokémon to give them to. To be honest, Gary was very curious about what kind of improvement other abilities would have after being enhanced. Unfortunately, there were only 2 ability enhancement stones left, and Gary was very hesitant about who to give them to. Since it is a rare material, it can only be used on the strongest and more cost-effective Pokémon in Gary's hands. Thinking from the perspective of strength and cost-effectiveness, the Pokémon with high ability applicability and Mega Evolution are naturally the most suitable. At present, Bandura and Sizer are the most suitable. These 2 Pokémon both have Mega Evolution forms, and the Technical Master and Sand Raising abilities are very good. Gary is also curious about the impact of climate change. What changes will happen when the ability is strengthened? Come out, Banhila. After thinking it through, Gary threw the Pokeball and released Banhila. Roar. Banhila looked at the empty field and understood what Gary wanted to say to him, waiting for Gary to speak. I'm here to improve your strength, but I don't know what changes will happen after the improvement. Gary said, Banhila was also confused. Improving strength is just getting stronger. What changes can there be? Gary did not explain to Banhila. He put his hand on Banhila, used an ability strengthening stone, and then checked Bangila's attribute. Pokemon, Banhila 3, attribute, Rock, Evil, level, 63, potential, champion, ability, EX Sandstorm will change the surrounding weather to sandstorm weather. Skills, tackle, leer, rock throw, dig, payback, horrible face, rock slide, stomping tantrum, smackdown, crunch, earthquake, rock slide, stone edge, iron defense, dark pulse, sandstorm, destruction, death beam, giga impact, ice form. Teaching skills, fire blast, thunderbolt, mega kick, dynamic punch, rest. Intimacy, 225, full value, 255. Carrying props, top hard stone, Gary. Oh. Gary stared at her with confusion. The introduction of the ability was still the same as the original introduction of the sand raising ability. There was no change. Roar. However, Banhila seemed to feel something. It felt as if it could change the climate of this world. Banhila, do you feel that your ability has become stronger? Gary said, Roar. Banhila was startled, then nodded, and at the same time wondered how Gary did it and actually made his ability stronger. Try to activate your ability. Gary said. Banhila activated his ability, and the originally calm room suddenly became windy. Twisters formed by sand appeared one after another. Sandstorm weather covered the entire stadium. The sand in the sky made visibility extremely low and the visual range was shortened. If Gary was not next to Banhila, he would not be able to see Banhila. This is not a sandstorm. It is simply a sandstorm. Can the sandstorm be intensified? Gary asked. Roar. Banhila tried it, and the sandstorm became more violent. The sand blew on Gary's face, and it hurt. Articuno dispersed the sandstorm weather. Gary immediately released Articuno to test. Articuno came out of the Pokeball and felt the sandstorm weather around him. He immediately disliked it and immediately used the snow scene. However, the sandstorm weather did not disappear. Bangila's sandstorm covered Articuno's snow scene. This is so strong. Gary was shocked. This sandstorm weather was really terrible. Not only did it cause a sandstorm of the scale of a sandstorm, but even the 3 sacred birds could not eliminate the sandstorm launched by Banhila. Of course, this may also be because Articuno's own level is too low Good Xiao. Gary wanted to continue testing, so he took out another Ultra Ball and opened it to release Molter's dust. Molters came out and felt very uncomfortable looking at the sandstorm weather. Anyway, the three holy birds didn't like the sandstorm weather. They usually flew everywhere and rarely flew to the desert area. Molters, try to use sunny day to replace the sandstorm weather. Gary said, Molters cast sunny day, but the sandstorm in the room still existed. Molters was the same and couldn't make Bangila's sandstorm dissipate. Roar! Banhila was immediately proud. He didn't expect that even the three holy birds couldn't dispel his sandstorm. You two work together to see if you can disperse the sandstorm weather. Gary said, Molters and Articuno cast weather moves one after another. The sandstorm on the field weakened, but it still didn't disappear. 199. Return to Pallet Town Hiss. Gary took a deep breath in his heart. He didn't expect the enhanced sandstorm to be so terrifying that even the three sacred birds couldn't make it dissipate. Okay, Banhila, you can also stop the sandstorm. Gary said. Hearing this, Banhila waved his hand, and the violent sandstorm weather quickly subsided and soon dissipated. Gary touched his face. Just a moment ago, Gary's cheeks were red. This was not shyness, but being hit by sand. I don't know how large a range such a sandstorm can affect. Gary was very curious about this, but this is a city. If the sandstorm is too large, it will affect other people. He can only go to the field to test it later. And there is still an ability enhancement stone left. Gary doesn't plan to keep it. After returning to Professor Oak's laboratory, he will give it to Sizer. He is very curious about how the ability enhancement of the technical master will improve. The next day, Orange Alliance released another message that Trainer Ash from Palatown will challenge Drake in a week. A single stone stirs up 1,000 waves. The Chief Trainer Challenge is not a common event. It is good to hold it 4 or 5 times a year. I didn't expect it to be held twice in a row this month. The key is that the challenger is from Pallet Town 453. You should know that the last trainer Gary who challenged Drake is also from Pallet Town, which is very interesting. This piece of news also reduced Gary's popularity a lot. Gary left Pomelo Island the next day and took Molters to the interior of Kanto and returned to Pallet Town. The match between Ash and Drake is not very interesting, because Ash's current strength is stronger than in the original book. As long as Ash does not get sick, it will not be a big problem to defeat Drake. Although Drake's Elite Dragonite is very strong, the quasi-elite Pokémon can already compete with that Dragonite. As long as the previous battle goes smoothly, the Dragonite can be defeated with this number. Pallet Town. Gary arrived before noon. With a Pokémon like Molters that can fly long distances, Solation flying can be performed in one region. Gary, you are back. Why don't you stay and continue to watch Ash's game? Professor Oak knew that Gary had successfully defeated Drake, and thought that Gary would stay on Pomelo Island and wait for Ash to finish the challenge and come back together. Drake's strength is just SOSO. If Ash can't even beat him, he is not qualified to continue to be my rival. Gary said proudly. Then how long do you plan to stay at home this time? Professor Oak came over enthusiastically and said something caring about Gary, but his eyes were always fixed on Molters. Stay for a while. I want to test the strength of some Pokémon, so as to arrange the training for them later. Gary said, Okay, then Gary, quickly release your Pokémon, and Grandpa will help you test it. The Trap Bo Wong smiled. Got it. How could Gary not know what Professor Oak was thinking and open the 4 Pokeballs on his body? Everyone can have a good rest during this period. I will prepare food for you. Gary said. Then Gary, you go and do your work. I will take a look at your Pokémon. Professor Oak stared at Molters and Articuno. If he was not worried that he would make the 2 Pokémon unhappy, he would have wanted to do it right away. Grandpa, be careful. Molters' flame feathers are real fire. People who touch them without its approval will be burned. Gary reminded, I know that Ponyta and Rapidash have such characteristics. I understand. You can prepare food without worry. Professor Oak said, Please bear with it. My grandfather just wants to observe you. Don't hurt him. Gary still reminded him before going to the room to prepare food without worry. Gary's working ability is very strong. After all, he has been with Professor Oak since he was a child. He is still very efficient at work and quickly prepared food for the Pokémon in the backyard. The key is that there is a machine specially used to make Pokémon feed in the room. Gary only needs to pour the raw materials in. The Pokémon who stayed in Professor Oak's laboratory also gathered at lunchtime. When they saw Gary, they all surrounded him happily. "Long time no see. Hurry up and eat. I will test your strength later," Gary said before going to Seafoam Islands. Gary set rules for his Pokémon to train well, and when he came back, he would improve the potential of the Pokémon with the highest level. And two competitive teams were divided according to potential, one for quasi-elite potential and one for elite level. The Pokémon with gym potential will be put aside for the time being, and there will be no champion potential team for the time being. The Pokémon heard the sound and went to eat. Gary looked at his Pokémon and observed their level changes. More than 2 months have passed, and there are still changes in the levels. LV53 Executor 3/Quasi-Elite. LV54 Executor 3/Quasi-Elite. LV55 Super Iron Tyrannosaurus 3/Quasi-Elite. LV52 Ice Pokemon 3/Quasi-Elite. LV37 Onyx/Quasi-Elite. The level of the Pokemon with Quasi-Elite potential in Gary's hands. Onyx was captured during the challenge of the Orange Alliance and is not used for the time being. However, there is no need to worry about Onyx. After using the best metal coat on it, its potential can be raised to elite potential. According to the rules set before leaving, Super Iron Tyrannosaurus is the highest level among the Pokémon with quasi-elite potential. This is also normal. When Super Iron Tyrannosaurus was first captured by Gary, its level was very high. It also works hard in training, so it is normal that its level is far ahead. However, Executor is level 54, which Gary did not expect. It has surpassed the level of Executor. Gary then looked at the Pokémon with elite potential. LV55 Alakazam 3/Elite LV56 Pidgeot 3/Elite LV55 Aerodactyl 3/Elite LV40 Magneton/Elite. I never expected that Pidgeot would be the highest level, but Pidgeot is usually very hardworking, so it's normal. After waiting for the Pokémon to finish their meal, Gary followed the rules and upgraded the potential of Megatron to Elite and Pidgeot to Champion. The other Pokémon were envious, but they didn't complain. After all, the rules were set in advance, and if they couldn't beat them in training, they were inferior in skills. Don't worry, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future, so you still have to train hard, Gary said. All the Pokémon nodded and decided to train hard in the future to strive for the next opportunity to become stronger. Gary also strengthened the Pokémon, of course. He taught his Pokémon the skill devices that were awarded for challenging the Southern Cross Gym. They could learn Rest and Destruction Ray, which was a small reward for their hard work. It was like giving them some soup. 200 X Technical Expert Ability. Okay, it's your turn next, Sizer. After teaching all the skills that should be taught to the Pokémon, it's time to strengthen Sizer's ability. Phew! Sizer was surprised. It had learned new skills. How come it was its turn again? This time, I'm going to improve your ability, because your ability improvement is the most cost-effective, Gary said. Sizer's ability is Technical Master, and it has dual attributes. When using skills with power less than or equal to 60, the power is increased by 50%, and combined with the attribute bonus, the power is very impressive. For example, if Sizer uses Bullet Punch with a power of 40, it can hit 80 power, which is doubled directly. Anyway, if Sizer uses skills with a power less than or equal to 60, the power is doubled. But the maximum power is 120, and I don't know to what extent the power will be improved after strengthening the Technical Master's ability. Phew, Sizer nodded. Anyway, no matter what, it is always a good thing to improve your strength. Gary put his hand on Sizer's hard steel armor, used the last ability enhancement stone, and then checked Sizer's attribute. Pokémon, Sizer, attribute, bug, steel, level, 55, potential, champion, ability, EX technical expert. When attacking, you can increase the power of skills below 80 power by 100%. Skills, Leer quick attack, fury cutter, false swipe, wing attack / bullet punch, metal claw, double team, iron head, air / sword dance, X scissor rest. Teacher skills: Rest, Destruction, Death Ray. Intimacy, 255. Full value, 255. Oh my god, such a big improvement. Gary was surprised. There are quite a few steel skills below 80 power, such as Iron Head skill, with attribute bonus and ability, has a power of 200, which is as terrifying as self-destruct. Even if you don't use this skill, all skills with power below 80 will be doubled. Super Iron Tyrannosaurus, come here. Gary immediately called Super Iron Tyrannosaurus over to test Sizer. Roar. Knowing what Gary wanted to do, Super Iron Tyrannosaurus was happy to accept it. It was usually the most vulnerable in Gary's Pokémon team. Super Iron Tyrannosaurus's defense ability was much better than that of Bangira. Sizer uses X-Scissor, said Gary. Ja. Sizer rushed to the front of the Super Iron Tyrannosaurus quickly, crossed his claws, and chopped it up, and the Super Iron Tyrannosaurus also crossed his arms to resist Sizer's attack. Dang! The heavy body of the Super Iron Tyrannosaurus rushed backwards, leaving a scratch more than 2 meters long on the ground. Roar! The Super Iron Tyrannosaurus showed disbelief and didn't expect that it was repelled. It usually asked Sizer to spar with it. Usually, it would not be repelled if it was hit by X-Scissor. How come Sizer suddenly became so powerful? How do you feel? How many attacks like this do you think you can resist? Gary asked. Roar. The Super Iron Tyrannosaurus felt his arms swelled up and thought that he could only withstand 4 or 5 attacks like this. Although the Super Iron Tyrannosaurus has no high resistance to bug-type skills, it can still easily defend against them with its own strong physical defense race. And Sizer can now easily break the defense of the Super Iron Tyrannosaurus. If Sizer uses Iron Head, the Super Iron Tyrannosaurus will not be simply repelled several meters away, and the armor on its body will probably be cracked. Okay, Sizer, try to use skills with lower power when you're training in battle. Gary said. After all, Sizer's ability is a passive skill. As long as you use skills with a power of less than 80, you will get the ability bonus. If it is a special attack skill, it's okay. The physical attack report is a bit scary. Cheap. Sizer nodded to show that he understood. In the future, when fighting with Blastoise and Super Iron Tyrannosaurus, he will use skills with higher power. Blastoise, Super Iron Tyrannosaurus. What do you mean, you little bug? In the following days, Gary stayed in Pallet Town, supervising the training of his Pokémon and taking care of other Pokémon in the laboratory. A week later, Gary and Professor Oak watched the Chief Trainer Challenge of the Orange Alliance. Although he said that he didn't care about Ash's game, Gary's body was still very honest to watch the game on TV. 0. Please give flowers. Ash performed very well, at least more calmly than in the original book. There was no problem with the Pokémon he sent out, and they performed normally, except for facing it seemed a little weak when it came to Dragonite, but in the end, defeated Dragonite with the help of Pikachu with the advantage of numbers. However, Ash did not send Tauros, but replaced Tauros with Snorlax. Gary was still very curious about Ash's Snorlax. After all, Snorlax is a very difficult Pokémon to breed because of its own sleepiness. It is obviously a very strong Pokémon, but it is too lazy to train it. In the animation plot, the only Snorlax worthy of praise is Ash's Snorlax. This Snorlax is not only strong, but also a flexible fat man. In fact, according to the original plot, Gary also captures Snorlax, but that Snorlax was resting all day, but since Gary came here, he didn't plan to capture too many Pokémon, and he didn't encounter Snorlax along the way, so he didn't capture it. Ash also defeated Drake. It seems that Ash has grown a lot during his trip to the Orange Islands. Professor Oak said, "It's okay, there are no big mistakes, Grandpa. I have to go out in 2 days, and I will probably be back in a while." Gary said, "Go out? Where?" Professor Oak asked in confusion. "I heard that there is a very powerful Machoke on the road to the Indigo Plateau Conference. I want to go and see it." Gary said, "You already have a Forsaken, and you're planning to capture a fighting Pokémon." Professor Oak said, "Forsaken is good, but it's not enough to capture only one fighting Pokémon, and I also like Machamp. I thought about catching Machop before, but I didn't meet any that satisfied me along the way." Gary said, "Is that so? Then you go." Professor Oak was a little reluctant, not because he was reluctant to let Gary leave, but because he had more time to observe Pokémon with Gary's help during this period. Now that Gary is leaving, Professor Oak has to take care of the daily life of Pokémon in the laboratory. Although he can still observe Pokémon during this period, he still has to distract himself from work. "Grandpa, why don't you ask Aunt Delia to help you?" Gary said.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.